members. Okay, proceed. Honorable members, the matter shall be resolved. The matter shall be resolved, honorable members. You are prematurely protesting. Honorable members, honorable members, like I said, you will have an opportunity to raise that matter. Let us, honorable members, start. Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, Honorable Kimayo, Honorable Kimayo, you're prematurely reacting. Let us start the session and then you will have an opportunity to give your voice legitimately. Right now the session has not begun. So your protest is not on record. Your protest is not on record. Let us start.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader, honorable members, order. The matter that you're protesting is premature. Let us get to that particular order and then you can legitimately lend your voice. Right now it's not on record. You will have an opportunity, honorable members. Allow us to proceed and get to the contentious order. Proceed.
Okay. Honorable Speaker.
Leader majority.
Honorable Speaker. Hey, hello, Ruto, please, let's have order in the House. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 15th November 2023. 1. Legal notice number 175 of 2023 relating to the Public Finance Management Ulinzi Prime Health Services Fund regulations. 2. Report of the Auditor General, Noyan Keitan. Honorable members, let's finish to lay the papers, then we'll come to that order. 2. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2021 and 30th June 2022 and the certificates therein in respect of Kasoko Boys Secondary School, St. Anne's Kisoko Girls High School, St. Stephen's Aluor Mixed Public Secondary School, Githunguri Girls High School, and Nyamathi Secondary School. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable Speaker, at this moment, reading the mood of the House, I would request that we defer motion 9 so that we allow for further consultation, so that we can get the views of every member before we move on to the next. So
it seems that it's the mood of the House.
Therefore, I request you, Honorable Speaker, with utmost respect, that we defer motion number 9. I thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Thank you, honorable members. I think it seems it's the mood of the House that it be deferred. Next order. Next order. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion. Exemption of certain business from Standing Order 43.
Honorable Speaker, order number 8, procedural motion, exemption of certain business from Standing Orders 43. That this House resolves to exempt the business appearing as order number 11 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. Honorable Speaker, I know the House is on fire today, but that is the essence of being an elected member of Parliament, to protect your constituencies and the resources that you have. And it is the reason that we came to this Parliament. Honorable Speaker, today being Wednesday, we usually debate private members' motions, but because Honorable Speaker, we have the presidential speech and other matters, I request that we allow order number 11 and then we proceed with private members' motions during the day. So, Honorable Speaker, I request Honorable Kagushia to second. Procedural motion.
Honorable Speaker, I do second the procedural motion to take place.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing as order numbers 9 and 11 in today's order paper for the from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. Is there a question? Okay. Honorable members, I now put the question that the House resolves to exempt the business appearing on order number 11 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order number 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Honorable members, since the procedural motion has passed, it means order number 9 automatically falls. Let's move to the next order.
Order number 10, the Universities Amendment Number 3 Bill, National Assembly Bill Number 64 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Universities Act and for connected purposes. Order number 11, motion, debate on the President's address, day 2.
Did anyone have any time outstanding? I think Honorable Kainan, you had how many minutes left? Okay, proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Hoping that issue has been resolved, Madam Speaker. I hope there will be some semblance of law and order. Madam Speaker, I want to join Kenyans. I want to join colleagues here in. It's difficult, actually. I think you need to call to.
Order, honorable members. Honorable DK, Honorable Ochieng, Honorable Sirma. You have an opportunity to consult later on the matter. So kindly take your seat. Honorable members, let us be orderly.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, STONA is a constitutional obligation of the President in line.
Honorable members, kindly consult in low tones.
Shall I?
Honorable members, Honorable Savula.
And it's taking my time.
Honorable Kandiye. Okay, proceed, Honorable Kainan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, STONA is a constitutional obligation of the President in line with Article 132(1)(c) of the Constitution, which mandates the President to report to the nation through Parliament on measures taken and progress achieved in realization of national values as set in the article, Madam. Madam, therefore, the President trusts in this address to the nation from the economic front has addressed so many issues which we need to internalize. The first issue, Madam Speaker, are the challenges facing the country, Madam Speaker. I don't know, there is still a lot of...
Honorable Member for Keses. Honorable Murui, kindly slow down on your consultation. Honorable DK, you will have an opportunity to consult on this matter during lunch break.
Madam Speaker.
Honorable Keitany. Let us proceed. We are on a different matter altogether.
It seems
you may proceed. You'll start again. You may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the President's address to the nation through Parliament, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a constitutional requirement. And we as members, as the representative of the people, pursuant to Article 1 of the Constitution, Madam Speaker, need to internalize this particular address in line with the expectation and the aspiration of the people of Kenya, Madam. The President has tried to address almost all issues from the economy to education, infrastructure, security, agriculture, and later on I'll address the issue of the lunar floods, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we must face the realities. This address, which is second after the Kenya Kwanza government actually came to power, addresses the silent issues that we have been avoiding. The silent issues, Madam Speaker, the role of independent institutions like the judiciary. I remember in the past, we were told we have 3 arms of government. There's still a problem. I don't know what we are going to do.
Honorable Muhia.
But it will be futile to...
Honorable Kandiye. Just proceed and ignore them because we can hear you.
In the past, when we were in school, Madam Speaker, we were told we have 3 arms of government. The judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. These days, we have many arms of government. We have the independent institutions which have actually taken over the role of many of the other 3 arms. We also have the members of the 4th estate. We have the NGO community. But Madam Speaker, one thing that we must address as a nation is the role and the independent mandate of the judiciary. And this is one thing that the government, the President has, over the last few months, has attempted actually to solidify and address. And we are glad that the role of the judiciary is being addressed without demeaning them, without downgrading them. They are being funded. And that is meant actually to provide a neutral appetite to the other arms of government. And therefore, that is commendable. Madam Speaker, the other bit is the issue of affordable housing. We are aware that there has been challenges. Where I come from, Madam Speaker, before a few years ago, two things were foreign: tarmac roads and decent housing, Madam Speaker. Luckily, because of devolution right now, we have seen elements of tarmac road. And right now, because of this concept of affordable housing, we have been told, and we have a huge chunk of land, Madam Speaker. We hope and pray that our region will get facilities through this affordable housing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the other issue is the issue of national security. In the past, Kenya is a responsible member of the international community. Not only a responsible member, Madam Speaker, Kenya has been a frontline state. Kenya has been an infrastructural hub. Kenya has been a security hub. Kenya has been a conferencing hub. Meaning we enjoy a special status, Madam Speaker, as a country, and this unique position must be appreciated by the leadership. And the President in his address, without prejudice, without anticipating debate on the issue of Haiti, on this, we need to understand how Kenya's position, how Kenya's image has been projected. First, over the last 1 year, Madam Speaker, we were a member of the United Nations Security Council. That is a coveted position which many African countries or many third world countries have been struggling to realize. We achieved it. And therefore, our position as a responsible member of the international community must at all times be projected, protected, and promoted. This, Madam Speaker, this can only come if we really appreciate that dynamic role of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, and I'm glad that the President has alluded to this, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the issue of defense and security, Kenya is in the midst of many countries that has been bedeviled by security challenges. Look at our neighbors. Look at what has happened in Ethiopia recently. Look at what is happening right now in the Sudan. Look at what has happened in the Congo. Look at what has happened in Somalia. It's because of this that, Madam Speaker, every effort must be made to protect our international border, Mr. Speaker. Both internal security and international border. And this is why, this is one of the areas that the President has also alluded to. Madam Speaker, the issue of provision of affordable health care is something that all of us are yearning for. Recently, we passed a number of legislations, and I hope this will inject professionalism, efficiency, and efficacy, Madam Speaker, so that those Kenyans, those I think today is a bad day for the members, Madam Speaker. Members are still consulting loudly, and therefore what we are saying, even that may not even make sense. I hope you will. Madam Speaker, the issue of affordable health care is a constitutional requirement, Madam Speaker, and this is one thing that the President has also alluded to. Madam Speaker, the issue of national debt. I'm glad you know that you have taken a bit of my time, so I hope you will, yes.
Kindly add him some time because he's been interrupted. Can give him another 5 minutes.
Madam Speaker, the issue of national debt. This regime inherited a struggling economy, and we must say the truth. I'm glad that yesterday the leader of majority has emphatically said that Kenya is not going to default and join the league of many countries that have been degraded, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a reality. One thing that has given us leverage over the years as a responsible nation, Madam Speaker, is because of our commitment to our international obligation. Madam Speaker, the government should do everything possible to make sure Kenya does not default in our international obligation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, without this, even the little that we have been enjoying, what has remained from high inflation, Madam Speaker, what is remaining from the high cost of living will be eaten once we default. Madam Speaker, the other bit that the President has also alluded to is the issue of digitization of government services, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is also critical. We are living in the era of the digital world. This must be felt at the villages, Madam Speaker, and this is one thing that every Kenyan is yearning for. Madam Speaker, having said this, recently I was taken aback, Madam Speaker, on the conflict, in particular by the meteorological department, Madam Speaker, and the report that they give. Madam Speaker, we, the people of Northern Kenya, have had a very challenging history. Recently, our area was affected by drought. Right now, we are suffering because of El Nino. Madam Speaker, we expected the President, in his speech, also to include the issue of El Nino floods, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today as we speak, 90% of our region, Madam Speaker, is completely cut off from the rest of Kenya. Madam Speaker, I know we don't have time and the provision to amend this, but Madam Speaker, we hope and we appreciate the government has declared the El Nino floods a national disaster. But Madam Speaker, that has yet to bring in any meaningful assistance to the region, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we hope the ministry is concerned, the Ministry of ASAL, Office of the Deputy President, Madam Speaker, Office of the President, the Ministry of Infrastructure, will put their house in order and ensure that the people of Northern Kenya who have been cut off completely by the El Nino floods get assistance, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is this thing that is really, I know very soon we'll be talking about the outbreak of cholera, dysentery and other diseases, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, right now as we speak, the main road from Nairobi, Mwingi, Garissa, Wajir is completely cut off. Even the little tarmac that we have had, Madam Speaker, has been completely washed away. Madam Speaker, we hope and pray that this issue of El Nino floods will be taken seriously by the government, and now that they have declared this area a disaster zone, the necessary government services should also be provided, Madam Speaker, to the villagers, so that people also appreciate the presence of government, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, time for politics is over. I want to ask those who are still determined to rubbish everything that the government does, to give the government an opportunity to do their mandate, and when the time comes, you'll get an opportunity to interrogate them and evaluate them on the basis of their performance. Madam Speaker, in the African culture, when an institution like government or the people decide through elections to vote in a particular way, that particular way must also be respected. And this is why we are saying, allow the government to function. If they don't perform, you will have an opportunity in 2027. For now, this government has been duly elected. Allow them to function, allow them to do their work, allow them to operate. If they don't perform, let's undertake our responsibility as a responsible opposition. If we rubbish everything, and if we rubbish everything that the government does, then I can assure you there will be no need for elections. Allow them to function, critique them, evaluate them, both summatively, formatively. If they don't perform, you will have an opportunity. For now, this is their platform. Their platform is what they have said. And this is one thing that should be supported. I support the report.
Honorable Member for Laikipia West, Honorable Ashira Karani. Oh, are you not ready?
I'm ready. The presidential speech.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I will start by applauding His Excellency the President for his fantastic speech. And this is one example where I've seen that the President has really done something good. For the first time, I've seen discipline in the promises that has been given. For example, the President gave a promise when he was campaigning that he will appoint 6 judges to the Court of Appeal. And true to his word, the first thing that he did after swearing in is to go and call for the swearing of the 6 judges. The same time, Madam Speaker, the judiciary had requested for more fundings, and His Excellency the President agreed and asked this House to hand some 3 billion, which we did. The other thing I find in the speech, and I really appreciate, is the one on fertilizer. Madam Speaker, I come from a constituency that does a lot of farming, and I can tell you this is a program that has been approved by the farmers. The way the farmers have been registered, the 5.5 million farmers who have been registered, they received their fertilizer, and the reduction of the price from 6,500 to 2,500. I happen to be one of the farmers who benefited from the program. I can assure you, Madam Speaker, this is something that is helping the farmers a lot. With that, I support, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Member for Navokolo. Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to appreciate the President's speech as detailed in this House, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, thank that he took his 1 hour and 6 minutes and made use of it and addressed the nation within the provisions of Article 132, particularly Section C, which gives him the mandate, Honorable Speaker, to highlight what he has done and what he intends to do. Honorable Speaker, in the speech which the President delivered in this House, I have 2 or 3 observations to make. First, to appreciate him the issue of teachers. I come from an area, my constituency is full of graduate teachers and even primary school teachers. And Honorable Speaker, when he took the initiative to employ more than 56,000 teachers, I want to appreciate and say that's a good thing, which indeed my constituency, we saw the employment of very many teachers from there, those who had not been employed before. Honorable Speaker, I also want to thank the President on the highlight in terms of farming. Particularly, Honorable Speaker, the stage he took to release the debt of very many sugar factories, Honorable Speaker, 118 billion shillings is not a walk in the park. It takes somebody to really put his foot down and do it. And Honorable Speaker, having taken that bold step and done the release of 117 billion debt, I just want to request, Honorable Speaker, that indeed let him complete the journey by really pushing on the issue of leasing, so that, Honorable Speaker, the balance sheet of these 5 factories is going to be good enough to attract, Honorable Speaker, the investors now to put in money and take over the running of these factories. Honorable Speaker, the only thing that now arises, which I did not see, is the reprimand. I want, Honorable Speaker, the government to reprimand. How did this 117 billion shilling come about? Who did these losses? How did it happen? Honorable Speaker, when you are selling cane, you must sell cane to the factory or deliver cane to the factory. You either have to get the sugar produced or the money paid. When you go to the stores, there is no sugar, but there is also no money in the pockets of farmers. Who took away this money? It's important, Honorable Speaker, that whereas we appreciate the President's speech very much, that he released the 117, but the question is, we want the institutions charged with responsibility to help the President reprimand those who stole that money. How did it come about that it was misappropriated? Honorable Speaker, I also want to thank the President in the manner in which he reported to the House the issue of repayment of debt, national debt, the repayment of the more than 500 billion to the Euro bond issues. It's a good move, Honorable Speaker. When a country like ours is put in the red, it's not only the country, Honorable Speaker, it's even those in private sector. We have business people who are doing offshore tradings, who are investing using foreign banks. And Honorable Speaker, when our country is in the red, definitely individual rating also comes down. So it's important to thank the President that he has taken an initiative to tell the country that is going to pay the loan owed after the Euro bond. And Honorable Speaker, in the same footing, we should ask, did we spend the money well? How was the money from the Euro bond proceeds come into the country? Those are issues, Honorable Speaker, the relevant agencies must help the President to address. And also, Honorable Speaker, crucial now, henceforth, what are we likely to see? Let us see good use of public resources as and when the government borrows. Honorable Speaker, the issue that the President addressed in terms of farming, the issue of subsidized fertilizers or subsidies into the farming as a process is a good thing, Honorable Speaker. Fertilizer was 7,500 very recently. Now, the government has brought it down to 2,500 per bag. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, it has a replica. When you come to my constituency, you see a change. Most of the people have afforded it now to buy and invest into the agriculture sector. Myself, I'm a farmer. I was able to access it, Honorable Speaker. It's a good thing. Let's encourage it to go on. But, Honorable Speaker, let's also ask the government to go further and say we don't just end up at the county headquarters. Like Kakamega, Honorable Speaker, we were only able to collect from Kakamega. Some of the stores which are now coming, were supposed to come down to the sub-counties, were not available. So let's ask the government, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that we now move down to the people and deliver fertilizer or any subsidy as close as possible, not to end up at the county level, Honorable Speaker. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate the President's speech and appreciate and thank him for that speech. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I support.
The Honorable David Kiplagat, member for Soy. Okay, next is I have the Honorable Dorothy Kiara. Somebody should pull out DK's card.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate and laud the President for his very elaborate message to the Kenyans 1 year after getting into office.
Professor Kipto, Barto, you have pressed the button and then now she's leaving. That's fine.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, the Kenya Kwanza regime aimed at addressing 3 primary challenges: external shocks, physical distress, and structural imbalances. The national revenue, Honorable Speaker, is 2.4 trillion and our debt redemption is 1.2 trillion. I have the revenue. And the interest is around 600 billion, Honorable Speaker, a quarter of the revenue. Part of the measures taken are to subsidize production, to ensure agriculture transformation, and putting money into those at the bottom of the pyramid. Honorable Speaker, I'm saying this because when the President was campaigning, he campaigned on the platform of the bottom-up economy. Honorable Speaker, by increasing the velocity of money into the market, this is what will revive our economy when we look at what has happened even in other countries like East Asia, where industrialization took place alongside green revolution. Additionally, Honorable Speaker, the government aims at addressing the forex risk as an important driver of the microeconomic instability. Honorable Speaker, having listened keenly to the address by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, I noted he is very key in 3 areas, Honorable Speaker. 1, the issue of job creation to our youth was not a myth but a reality that His Excellency has tried to address. Honorable Speaker, as we speak, we all appreciate the 56,000 jobs that are already in existence, courtesy of what the President promised when he was signing the education charter during his campaign. Honorable Speaker, other than the 56,000 teachers, the President has gone ahead to give Kenyans hope in an education system that the Kenyans were not very sure it will succeed. Honorable Speaker, the President came in office amidst a lot of disquiet in the moment when people are not sure that the curriculum-based, the competence-based curriculum will succeed. Honorable Speaker, the President, in his wisdom, after ensuring that 56,000 teachers are employed, he also went ahead and made sure that the stalemate that was there in allowing our children to go to teacher training colleges, which had stopped for 3 years, he lifted that, Honorable Speaker, and today we have a total of 20,456 teachers being trained as diploma teachers to handle the curriculum-based, the competence-based curriculum. Honorable Speaker, apart from the teachers, Honorable Speaker, we note that investing also in the substantive blue economy is thus very critical in the survival of our world and humanity. Honorable Speaker, the Kenya Kwanza government and the President of the Republic of Kenya is very key at ensuring that we invest in our waters and in our oceans. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I am proud to be associated with what the President is currently doing, investing and bringing up 22,000 new fish landing sites. These sites will not only create an opportunity for our youth to get employment, they will also be a source of revenue for this country because the production of fish is very, very critical in our country. Honorable Speaker, I want to end by saying His Excellency the President also in the education sector has ensured that every person in this country gets an opportunity to be in a credible institution.
I'll give her 1 minute to finish the sentence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And this is the reason why, Honorable Speaker, I wrote His Excellency, because the promise of the Open University has become a reality. And Honorable Speaker, by January next year, we will proudly invite 1,000 students who will be registered, thus fulfilling Article 43 of our Constitution. Honorable Speaker, in the matter of addressing corruption, which puts the government at the banks as a house, we can assist the government greatly by finalizing on the asset declaration and conflict of interest bill to further tighten anti-corruption policy framework and eliminate space for corruption and achieve the bottom-up transformation agenda. Honorable Speaker, I thank you.
The Honorable Member for Naivasha, Honorable Jane Kihara. Honorable Kibagendi, you're number 4
Madam
on the
Speaker.
list. I'm following the list. So you
Madam
can't protest.
Speaker, thank you very much.
Proceed, Honorable Kihara.
Very much for giving me this chance just to talk about the presidential address. Madam Speaker, I was not in the House when it was delivered. I was out of the country. But being part of the Kenya Kwanza government and the plan, I know whatever the president said is in line with what he promised Kenyans. And it is my support, being a staunch supporter of Kenya Kwanza government, to support the issues he said, the deliverables that I have seen, especially on the side of education. Madam Speaker, this is the highest number of teachers we have seen employed since we got independence. Madam Speaker, the fertilizer reduction of price from 6,500 to 2,500 tells me that Kenyans will have food security and also employment. We know agriculture is one big employer, and as it has been said, the education, the CBC, some of us would not even understand what it was. But when he came, he restructured to our understanding, and now we know the benefits because we are able to address it. We address to the talents of the people. The challenges that we have gotten, Madam Speaker, from COVID-19 and the drought has taught us many lessons. Madam Speaker, on Monday we had a public holiday to plant trees. He has been talking, the president has been talking about environment, climate change. I would like to thank him for giving us that day, and we saw it that actually everybody was out to plant trees. That tells us that we are going to address the climate change, we are going to have more forest cover, and I think this is what that he's been talking about. About the economy, yes, it has not picked up, but we are optimistic that this is going to happen. We need to give the government a bit of time. My biggest worry is corruption. Madam Speaker, there has to be a splendid way of addressing corruption, because this is something that has not come out very clearly, because we don't want him to be seen to addressing corruption and not taking action. We'd like action to be taken to those ones who are pulling him down when he's addressing the economy of this country. And having not been around here and not had a chance, I'm just looking at this print, but even from the side headings, subheadings, It tells me that this country is headed for greater heights. Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you.
The Honorable Rachel Nyamai, member for Kitui. Not yet. Okay, I think we can go to the Honorable member for Gatanga, Wakili Muriu. After that, we'll have Charles Ngusia and then Anthony Kibagendi, going like that.
Madam Speaker, I write support the presidential speech to the nation, which was in compliance with Article 132 of our Constitution. And Madam Speaker, I have got two issues which I like this country to understand, stemming from the presidential speech. Number one, Madam Speaker, we need to appreciate that the Constitution 2010 came with an expanded government and therefore an expanded expenditure which was not matched by the generation of revenue. And therefore, the first two terms from 2010 to 2022, when this constitution was being implemented, it meant that the government then had to borrow tremendously to ensure that they are able to cover the huge expenditure of running a bloated government to a tune of 10 trillion. But Madam Speaker, the President addressed that issue very critically because he said very clearly, though the previous government had borrowed heavily to a tune of close about 10 trillion, this country cannot afford to be continue borrowing, because you cannot be able, number one, continue borrowing to support the consumption. And Madam Speaker, he also addressed the issue on what is the country doing to ensure that we do not go to the direction of Zimbabwe, direction of Zambia, direction of Ghana, direction of Greece, and even Sri Lanka, where those countries have defaulted of their national debt obligation, and therefore their rating in the international financial institutions have come down crumbling. And Madam Speaker, it's good to mention this, that if there is an existential danger of this country, is that our debt. And I think, Madam Speaker, the President has addressed that issue succinctly, in the sense that we need, number one, to raise our own revenue. Number two, we need to have the sight of our debt in such a way that we are ready to pay our debts when they fall due. But Madam Speaker, you find that the Eurobond is falling due, and the President assured this country that that amount of money, the government is ready to pay that debt. Because the danger of not paying that debt, Madam Speaker, is that this country, it will lose its own sovereignty in the eyes of the financial institutions. Today, we are complaining about high taxation, but the consequence of defaulting in terms of paying tax, paying the debt, is that, number one, there will be spiral inflation, and number two, our shilling will be highly dilapidated in terms of value, and number four, Madam Speaker, in the eyes of international standards, this country will be downgraded, and therefore, the fact that the president say, look, we need to ensure, number one, digitize our revenue, so at least there is no revenue leakage, and number two, ensure that our debts are paid at the right time. Madam Speaker, that is a step in the right direction. The second issue, Madam Speaker, is that the president addressed the issue of education. Education, Madam Speaker, is the equalizer between the rich and the poor. A country can only be able to progress if it has people or population which is well educated. And therefore, the fact that we are able to plug 600 billion in this financial year to support the education, the fact that we've been able to ensure that we have employed 56,000 new teachers under TSC to educate our children, we are putting the right steps in the right direction. Finally, Madam Speaker, it's about the food. We can talk about many things, Madam Speaker, but if this country is hungry, a hungry man is an angry man. And that issue that has been addressed by the president, by making sure that we have cheap fertilizer for our people. Madam Speaker, finally, is about the youth unemployment, which is a big problem in this country. And the fact that there's intervention or digitization, the EPZ, the housing programs, which again is addressing the issue of employment, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the President's speech. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Member for Mwingi West, Honorable Charles Ngusia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this presidential speech, Madam Speaker. Coming from one of the smartest politicians I've ever seen in this country, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto. Madam Speaker, if I can rate the president politically, he is scoring 100%. Economically, below average. Socially, below average. But, Madam Speaker, let me engage on the issues of speech. I will appreciate the expression which came out in regards to agriculture. The issues of subsidized fertilizer. Madam Speaker, this one was done. But, Madam Speaker, there is still need to stress out. Majority of this country's agricultural inputs doesn't rely much on fertilizer, Madam Speaker. We need a lot to be done in arid and semi-arid zones, Madam Speaker. Issues of provision of water instead of fertilizer could actually boost our agricultural productivity. Then there was issue in agriculture, which is excellently touched, Madam Speaker, and expansion of post-harvest storage facilities. Madam Speaker, this has been done, but there is need for equitable distribution of the same across the country. Only few areas have experienced the benefit. We need to see things happening all over the country without discrimination or favor. The issues of community health workers, Madam Speaker, that's positive to our country. And that is one thing I just loved our president. We have seen it happening in the country, and we need it enhanced to ensure the project is sustainable. Madam Speaker, there are issues of education. Yes, we have implemented a new curricular activity in terms of education, 55,000 teachers employed. But we have come short of expressing who are these teachers employed in terms of ethnic balance, regional balance, and many other things, Madam Speaker. It is high time we interrogate this, and I have seen there are still bias in it, Madam Speaker. STOT project, which is infrastructure. I recall our CS, Mutembei, when he was on the floor of the House, he stressed out the need to complete STOT projects in this country. And Madam Speaker, in my constituency, I'm one of the mostly and first affected by this STOT project, the Kabat Migwani Bondoni Road, which is supposed to connect 8 counties, Madam Speaker. There is need for President to come out clearly and explore a good strategy on how he is going to complete the issues of STOT project, Madam Speaker. And I know this is not only affecting Mwingi West, it is affecting the whole countries. The previous administration started so many projects, and if we don't complete them, we will be wasting public resources, Madam Speaker. There's need to follow the Vision 2030 project, which was initiated by President Mike Kibaki. Madam Speaker, the issues of electrification should have come out clearly on how we are going to deal with the issues of blackouts, issues of new project in this. We need to connect each and every Kenyan with electricity, Madam Speaker. I never heard of that being stressed, Madam Speaker. Of course, the climax of the debate, and I would like to agree with the President, said, We must admit that as a country, we had been living large and way beyond our means. The time has come, therefore, to retire the false comforts and illusionary benefits of wasteful expenditure and counterproductive subsidies on consumption, which we dunk ourselves deeper into the all of avoidable debts, Madam Speaker.
Allow him a minute to complete his sentence.
I acknowledge, Madam Speaker, what the President said, and I really empathize with this country. We need to pay all the debts, and I'm praying for the success of this country, because the success of Kenya will be success of everybody, whether you are supporting government or you are against the government. Let us pray for the success of Kenya, for the benefits of our Kenyan, and let us pay debts. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Kitutu Churches South, Honorable Anthony Kibagendi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity for me to also contribute to this. While we appreciate that Kenya is a continuous work in progress, we must also agree and be able to do things in the right way and use the right terminologies. When the President stated here that the government has employed close to 60,000 teachers, that was inappropriate, because the only teachers that have been employed are about 10,000. The rest of the teachers are on internship program. The other thing that the President did not address was on matters national cohesion and national integration.
What is your point of order, Honorable Bayer?
Honorable Speaker, I think this is a house of records. This is a house that relies on data. This is a house of truth. For the Honorable Kibagendi to rise on his place and claim that what the President said in terms of the 60,000, approximately 6,000 teachers being employed is incorrect, is actually trying to lower the dignity of this house, because the statistics are there. TSC would give you the statistics that the people that are employed as interns are different from the ones that have been given PPP jobs. And the information is out there and everybody knows about it. But to disparage the presidential speech to say such things as he says is actually out of order. Unless the Honorable Kibagendi substantiates, I think it is good manners to withdraw untruths. So I'll really ask whether I get the data from TSC, bring it here so that it shows us these are permanent and pensionable and these are PMP. What he has said should be expunged from the record of the House. Thank you and apologize.
Honorable Kibagendi, do you have confirmation from TSC that no teachers were in fact employed but that they were interns? Yes or no? Do you have?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm one of the youngest members of Parliament
hold on,
research.
Honorable Kibagendi.
Yes, it is factual.
Honorable
9,100 teachers were employed on permanent basis. The rest are interns. That is the truth.
Honorable Kibagendi,
yes.
If you make that allegation, you have the duty to substantiate.
So
you should have.
That is the truth, Madam Speaker.
No, I'm not asking for you to say the truth from yourself. You should have a document or
it is
from the TSC site.
It is even in all sites, in all websites.
No, we don't talk about. We are talking about the official TSC. Do you have an official? Yes.
Madam Speaker, these are the facts. These are the facts.
We'll ask you to withdraw that, unless you can bring it back later if you have it.
I can bring it back later.
Okay, now withdraw.
Okay, I withdraw. Do I proceed? But Madam Speaker, while at it, when they talk about 60,000 teachers, we do not see them substantiating the claims, because even that is a claim. But let me proceed. The President did not address the issue of national cohesion and equitable distribution of national resources and job opportunities. We've had a committee here in Parliament demonstrate that jobs were created, a few jobs that were created at KRA were unfairly distributed amongst a few communities, which I thought the president, that's a national issue, he should have addressed. The other thing is about the president being misinformed by those who give him data on the issue of the gentleman called Karisa from Coast Province, who has accessed 714 million from the Hustler Fund, that 714,000, who wanted to be given more access to be able to purchase a tuk-tuk. With 714,000, that gentleman can actually buy 2 of those tools of trade that he can use to generate income. What I can say again is that the government hasn't given clear indicators on job creation for youth. When the president talks about 50,000 jobs created in the construction industry, not all young Kenyans, not all youth are fundis. Most young Kenyans would hope to get job opportunities far beyond the construction industry. And the president ought to also have spoken about job losses in the steel industry, in the banking industry, and in the various industries that we've had lost job losses.
Your point of order, Honorable Nyamai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I have interrupted my colleague, the Honorable Kibagendi, again on matter of fact. When I look at the presidential speech on page 12 and 13, the president has specifically talked about different cadres of our youths, talking about the Juakali sector and going further to explain about engineers, architects, quantity surveyors and all that. Is it in order, Honorable Speaker, for the Honorable Kibagendi to only go to the negatives and ignore all the positives? For example, what is on page 12 and page 13 as clearly stipulated? Honorable Speaker, is it in order?
Your point of order, Honorable Dawood.
Madam Speaker, Honorable Kibagendi has misrepresented the President's speech, where the President talked about Karisa accessing 714,000. It is in bits, and he said 714,000 he could have bought 2 tuk-tuks, but you do not access 714 in one go. So he said he should have been able to buy those 2 tuk-tuks. So I want him to correct those facts. It's on page 11, number 40.
Honorable Kibagendi, you want to make reference to the speech? You've looked at it?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is something that I've read severally. I listened to the President, and I know what I'm talking about. When I talk about Honorable Nyamai, what Honorable Nyamai has asked, it's the entire of what she's talking about is around the construction industry. And that is what I clearly stated. Job opportunities that young people in Kenya need are beyond the construction industry. When you talk about quantity surveyors, engineers, it is purely in the construction industry. And on the issue that Honorable Member from Meru has raised is that at this point, Karisa is able to access 714 million, not in total. It is at this point that is able to access that. So that should be able to guarantee the gentleman an opportunity to buy 2 motorbikes. For me to get to the... yes.
Honorable Kibagendi, if someone accesses an amount of money, it is for them to decide what they shall buy with it, not for you to tell them what is a better idea, because you're not in his business. So I think you're really over-speculating on that one. Huh? Yeah,
Thank
so
you,
just
Madam
proceed.
Speaker. Thank you, Madam
and
Speaker.
stick to factual things that are in the speech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yeah. Leave out your speculation.
The problem here, Madam Speaker, is we are accepting speculation from those that are supporting the President and not agreeing to the facts that I'm presenting. But let me proceed. We are saying the government is late on its promises and its bills. And it is time the government transformed its lofty visions into actual projects and services to the people of this republic that gave them an opportunity to serve. Thank you, Madam Speaker, despite all the interruptions. Thank you.
The Honorable Rachel Nyamai. You'll be next, Honorable Murugara.
Yes. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you very much for also indulging me earlier. First of all, I would like to congratulate the President and start by saying that it is not easy, Honorable Speaker, to lead a country. It is very difficult to lead, and it is easier to oppose, to say no to everything that is done. So I would like to take this opportunity as the member for Kitui South to congratulate the President for the first 1 year from where he started at the situation that he found the country and where he has been able to push the country this far. Honorable Speaker, he was able, the President, His Excellency, the President was able to put down matters of this country from health to security to agriculture and to everything that pertains to this country in only 1 hour and 6 minutes, Honorable Speaker. And I would like to say that, to congratulate him for that. Madam Speaker, I will go to matters that touch on my constituency directly and start with the issue of employment of teachers. I would like to thank the President because I have seen teachers employed in my constituency, in primary schools, in secondary schools, in both Ikuda and Mutomo sub-counties, and also in the newly registered GSS schools. And I would like to just call for more, that when another opportunity comes, Honorable Speaker, be it teachers being permanently employed, be it teachers being on temporary employment, I am welcoming employment of all teachers in whichever way in my constituency, because my constituency and many other constituencies in rural areas are highly understaffed. Honorable Speaker, I will go also direct to the matter of reduction of cost of fertilizer. Madam Speaker, we are aware that fertilizer in this country about a year ago cost 6,500 shillings and it has now been pushed down by the President to 2,500. Honorable Speaker, this is a reduction of 4,000 shillings. The other part which I would like to congratulate the President is because of working together and collaborating with counties. Because we used to have purchase of fertilizer in other times. But this time, fertilizer is purchased. The President is able to work with the counties, and we are able to see distribution of fertilizer in our counties. And with the rains, the current rains, Honorable Speaker, we are looking forward to increased production of maize, especially in Kitui County. We look forward to increased production of maize. Honorable Speaker, we have also seen reduction of the cost of unga from 250 per packet, which was impossible. Now, Madam Speaker, this has gone to an average of about 150, and we cannot take this for granted. During the time that we were campaigning, Madam Speaker, it was 250, and now the price has gone to 150. I believe that it will go lower. What we can ask for is further reduction of cost of goods that are used within the households, and we'd like to ask the President to also look at this. Honorable Speaker, I would like to say that as a member of Parliament and as a member of Kitui South and also a member of various committees in this House, I would like to thank the President for giving us a product from his travels abroad. Madam Speaker, there is no way the President can make multilateral and bilateral agreements when he is seated here. We have seen these agreements that have been made, and we are looking forward to seeing possibilities of more business in this country within our business women and men who have really been looking forward to these agreements being done, agreements on taxation and others. Honorable Speaker, I would also like to say that another product of travel is that there is no way the President can sit down and not engage IMF, DFID, ADB. It is by these travels that the President has been able to engage, come with agreements that are going to be useful for this country, signed loans that are going to be useful so that we can have development. As I finish, Madam Speaker, I would like to say that the housing sector is going to give us various houses, social housing, affordable housing, and also the market rate housing. It is also going to give jobs to our children, those who are in the Juakali sector, and also our highly educated young people who are engineers and all the other high cadre those who have done very high-level degrees. So it is taking care of Juakali, and it's also taking care of those who are highly educated. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity.
The Honorable Sir George Murugara, member for Tharaka.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, last Thursday we had the State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President, and we are required to debate this particular speech for the next 3 days. Madam Speaker, I know many people will say we are giving His Excellency the President accolades where they are not due, but I got to start by saying, number one, the speech was given in a timely space of time because Kenyans are expectant. They want to hear what this government has done for the last 1 year. And it is not just the government. We as members of parliament are also being called to book, to tell constituents what we have done the last 1 year. His Excellency the President gave a statesmanship address, composed and allayed the expectations of Kenyans on negativity and gave us hope. He spoke on a wide range of issues, including cost of living, where he confirmed that the only way we can reduce cost of living is by subsidizing production. And he has given emphasis on the fertilizer and seeds for planting. He also spoke on the heavy debts the country has, which debts are actually increasing without borrowing because our shilling is losing value against the international currency, including the dollar. We have to repay these debts, otherwise if we default, everybody will actually rank Kenya as a failed state. He spoke on the petroleum products, whose prices should be coming down, and we expect this to happen, in spite of the fact that the government has no control on the prices at international level. As we move along, we are expectant that the prices of petroleum products will be coming down. It's important also to say he was a caring and listening president, because as he gave his speech, we had just seen the legal notices that had come along from the Minister for Interior by constituent Professor Kithure Kindiki. And Kenyans were up in arms. There was a hue and cry regarding the cost of services to Kenyans. We are happy to see that the government has listened to this and has actually now published reductions, recommended reductions, and these are to be subjected to public participation. This is what a listening and caring government should actually be doing. There was a paragraph or two on employment, which is very important. And employment in the country, as enunciated by the president, cannot come in any other way save as through investments. This is why the president has to visit foreign countries so that he's able to attract investment for our country and to ensure that the youth who are languishing in unemployment are able to secure employment. It is important also to talk about the teachers, whom he clearly mentioned that we have employed over 56,000 teachers. Whether these are interns, they are permanent and pensionable, these are young trained teachers who are now going to classrooms to teach. Hope for the interns is that as soon as they complete their term of internship, they are actually able to secure jobs. And these jobs will be permanent and pensionable. The president mentioned about housing, and we have all seen the edifices that are coming up across the country. Beautiful houses that are to be sold to Kenyans so that we can move towards modern living. Very important. The president mentioned about the economic stimulus and empowerment fund. This is called the Hustler Fund. It is doing wonders in the country. People are borrowing, people are repaying, and the fund is revolving as required. As members of parliament, would be to encourage Kenyans to borrow this money, make use of it, make prudent use of it, and repay so that others are able to benefit. You actually add about health, and here we don't have to go very high. Let's talk about the CHVAPs, the community health promoters. Extremely important. This is a milestone in the way we are doing things, because we need health at the basic grassroots level, where this CHP is able to attend to minor ailments which are afflicting our people at the local level. We add a paragraph on the foreign relations, very important, because we live in a global community where we must relate well with other countries in the universe. And we have heard Kenyans, some of them complain that the president has made too many trips abroad. We must make friends on the globe. We must also attract other countries to come and invest in our country. This way, we will be able to grow our economy. Our jobs will be much better as they are, and therefore, I believe it is welcome. I submit it's welcome for the president to be visiting these countries. A little bit off the line is the issue of 80, where our police officers are supposed to go and try to bring that country to order. There has been debate on this from all quarters, from all levels, and what comes out is clear that Kenya has not volunteered itself. It is the international community that has asked us to actually send our police officers to Haiti so that they are able to help that country bring law and order. And our police officers are more than willing to go there. We are not incurring any expenses. We are training them, and we have done it before. We have had our police officers go to other countries. They have actually provided the required peace. We have had our forces go to other countries, and they have done a fantastic job, including Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone, everywhere else, Europe. We were in Bosnia, we were in Herzegovina, and now as we speak, we are back in Africa, Somalia, and DRC Congo. I cannot finish my speech without talking about the expectations of Kenyans on our government. And we cannot say more than we have said, that every Kenyan is expectant. And the only message we have for the country is, let us be patient. Let us repay the debts. Let's see money growing so that we are able to move to development. My constituency, Tharaka, is equally expectant. And it's important to point out that being a marginalized area in the eastern region, we have high expectations. The roads are not good. We are experiencing El Nino. The blame is on the government. The blame is on me as the member of parliament, that the government is not going down to work on those roads. We really have to inform the government. As soon as the rains subside, let us move down to the entire country, fix our road network so that our citizens can enjoy communication. Electricity supply is short in Tharaka, is short everywhere else in the country. We have to move in and improve connection to the national grid. Tharaka topping this. Water, like now we should be harvesting the lots of water that is all draining into the Indian Ocean. In another 1 year, we shall be crying when drought comes. This is the high time we put into place means and ways of harvesting water. Water that will be used in northeastern Kenya, water that will be used in my region, in the constituency of Tharaka, and water that will be used everywhere else it is needed. For my constituency, I call upon the government for affirmative action in matters development. Tharaka is marginalized, Tharaka is arid and semi-arid, and therefore requires to be actually considered in a totally different perspective. With those remarks, I do actually congratulate the president. This speech was balanced. This speech tried to touch on all spheres of life in the country, and what we need to say is, Let us wait with the hope we were given by His Excellency the President. I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Andrew Okuome, member for Karachuonyo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to put my word on our presidential address to the nation. Madam Speaker, I do know and I acknowledge the fact that Kenyans are a proud people. They want to see the best for this nation. They are crying out for good life. And when the president was giving his speech, in my mind I was analyzing and seeing the benefits and advantages we were going to get from the president's speech. I had in mind what Kenyans are facing as we move along today, and relate that with the speech I expected the president to make. Madam Speaker, the key issue Kenyans are talking about, and which is extremely important, is the cost of living. If you do not address this adequately, the value of your speech, however good it may be, goes down. It is my opinion, Madam Speaker, that the President did not fully meet the expectation of the Kenyan population on the cost of living. People are suffering. I don't need to elaborate on this. Although he said the cost of maize has gone down, if it has, Madam Speaker, I want to say that this is not on ground. At least if I check what's happening in my own area or the region I come from, the cost of living in terms of maize is still as high as it was earlier after we had passed the budget 23-24. I therefore expected not just some good wishes and intentions. I expected the President to tell us strong methods he has taken to reduce the price, Madam Speaker. I know this is caused very much with the cost of fuel. Madam Speaker, the President avoided to talk on this. And yet it's fuel which is igniting this suffering to the Kenyan population. Yes, the President has said, and it is the policy of the government, that they cannot subsidize consumption. They want to subsidize production. Yes, that might look very good. But using this wholesale is not addressing the Kenyans' interest. I have in mind the same fuel I'm talking about. It is a very, very essential, commodity the Kenyan need. In fact, here is where the President should come up with a full control so that people don't suffer. Because once this goes out of the way, the life goes out of the way as well. Before, in the last regime, they subsidized petrol. And I was told if you do this, you are not going to make Kenya competitive. Yet, at that time, when subsidy was being given for petrol, and Kenya shillings was also supported, we remained competitive a lot more than we are today. If somebody wants to find for me why I'm saying that, Uganda, our neighbor here who has been with us all along the road, have left us. They are now importing their own fuel direct and the price they are paying is now lower. Why are we pricing ourselves out of the world market by weakening the Kenya shillings? Kenya shillings should be supported by the government and not let.
The Honorable Gladys Boss, member for Uasin Gishu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to speak on this very important matter. A matter that is clearly provided for in Article 132 of our Constitution, that requires the President to report through a State of the Nation address or an address to the nation all measures taken and the progress achieved in the realization of national values. These particular measures in the report and the progress in the report are required by the same Article 132 to be gazetted in the official Kenya Gazette. So for those such as Honorable Kibagendi, who are alluding to the fact that the facts in the report are not accurate, must understand that this is a legal document. It is a gazette notice, which means should you have any challenge about it, you can legally challenge the publication in the gazette and that line, and then request for an order that an addendum or a corrigenda be put in the official Kenya Gazette. It cannot be by simply raising superfluous statements here in the House. It must be factual. So I dare those to do that. Honorable Speaker, as I rise to lend my voice to this debate, I wish to use this opportunity to congratulate the head of state for this exemplary speech. The head of state was honest of the fact that he took over a government that was having fiscal challenges, that he took over a government that was having a sinking economy, that he took over a government that was wrought with unemployment, that he took over a government that we had challenges in our education sector. He took over a government that we had challenges in our health sector. He was honest about it. He did not say that it's a rosy picture. He also indicated, and we know for a fact, that there were two choices. Either the head of state buries his head in the sand, decides to be a popular leader, and continue subsidies, subsidizing petroleum, subsidize food, so that everyone can clap and cheer on. But that was not going to be sustainable. Eventually, the country would have sunk. There was the other choice which he has taken, to undertake serious interventions and focus on certain programs that may be painful in the short run, but will pay off in the long run with a complete economic transformation of this country. Honorable Speaker, what is positive about the report and is that it addresses the challenges that Kenyans had. Kenyans have had challenges with education, both the funding to education and their own ability to pay. Kenyans have had a challenge with affordable credit. Kenyans have had a challenge with affordable housing and housing in general. Kenyans have had a challenge with health care. Kenyans have had a challenge with the agriculture sector, which is the backbone of our economy. Kenyans have had a challenge with services and many other challenges. In setting out the measures taken, the President has given us the interventions that have been undertaken by government, which he leads on the education sector. One is the shortage of teachers by the employment of 56,000 plus or thereabouts teachers, the retraining of 8,200 teachers, and then on the university education, we all know that our universities were going bankrupt.
Please give her 3 more minutes. You had, please give her the mic.
Okay, thank you for that. And with that, we knew that our universities had debts. And now, universities are being funded because the funding methodology is student-centered. So the funding follows the student, not funding even when you don't have students. Also, the establishment of COOPs, which has ensured that we have a central admission system that is able to ensure that students are able to get full access to scholarships to study. Also, access to education by having the Open University being chartered. Affordable credit has been resolved by establishment of the Hustler Fund, and also by bearing pressure to the various fintechs who have since reduced the interest rates. On affordable housing, which not only creates employment, but also it ensures that we realize Article 43 of our Constitution that says every Kenyan has a right to housing that has sanitation and is affordable. The revolution of NHIF to ensure universal health care by establishment of the Social Insurance Fund, the Facilities Fund, and the Digital Fund will go a long way in ensuring that every Kenyan has access to health care. And the establishment of the Kenya Health Human Resources Advisory Council, it will help the inequality that exists in the human resources of the health sector. Agriculture has been revamped through the sugar, the rescuing of the sugar companies, the coffee, the cherry coffee fund, coolers being put there and dryers for farmers, and also the fertilizer subsidy. Improvement of services through digitization to wananchi has also welcomed. And lastly, fiscal policy interventions. One, ensuring that we normalize our relations with the International Monetary Fund. And lastly, the Eurobond, that for the first time we have paid a quarter of the amount installment, and that the promise that we shall retire the Eurobond by June of next year. Thank you for the opportunity, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, from my left, number 1 to 12 are on the left side. So I'll purposively go and pick a few members from my left. Majority of those who have interest, who have indicated interest from number 1, almost from number 1 to 12 are on my left. So honorable members, I will go to the member, Honorable Parasina Sakimba, member for Kajiado South. Is he in the house? All right.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll also stand to make some comments on the President's address to the nation when the President came here and addressed the nation. And on that one, I would like to make some few comments. One, I was impressed on the issue of Inspector General making him an accounting officer, and thus achieving making the Police Service Commission to be independent. Number 2,
what is out of order, honorable member for Garissa?
Goja kidogo Chelegei. Madam Speaker,
is that the honorable member for Garissa?
Yes, my honorable member for Garissa, Deko Barrow.
Garissa Township.
Correct. Madam Speaker, while I respect your ruling, that you will be giving some members from the other side who have just come into the chambers and we are here since 9:30, it will be unfair. So consider that consider, Madam Speaker, that some of us have been here since 9:30 waiting for the same chance. Thank you.
Well, Honorable Member for Garissa, you are not out of order. You are in order, and I will tell you that I'm going to consider that. I was just sensitive to the fact that all the interventions that I'm seeing are on my right, but I'll endeavor to do what I have said. So I'll stick to what I have said, but I'll take into consideration what you have said. Please proceed. The member who was on, that was the Honorable Parasina Sakimba, member for Kajiado. Please proceed.
Let me produce, Madam Speaker. Thank you so much. Like I was saying, I support and I support the presidential address. One of the issues that I got to my attention is making the Inspector General of Police and Accounting Officer, making that institution fully independent. Number two, the repayment plan of paying the debts to a tune of 500 billion. So much welcome. And it's my plea that once that one is being executed, there are areas still which are under disadvantage. For example, in Kajiado South, whereby because of the heavy rain now, we have seen a lot of damages to our roads, which make them impassable, and our people able to transport their food and produce. Madam Speaker, we are so much happy on the creation of 400 markets across the country. That one is going to enable our people to be able to transact well. We understand some of them are doing the kibandas, and is making them not able to take advantage of the market because of challenges of weather. The other issue is about the ICT hub centers that the President was talking about them. These are going to make our country more digital and encourage our youth to take advantage of the issue of ICT, because the world is changing towards that area. The other issue is about the recruitment process of men and women in the uniform in the security sector. He said that 75% will be given to the people who are, or the recruits from NYS. That one is going to encourage our youth to participate in the program of NYS. Sometimes they say that there's nothing they gain from there apart from them going through small training. The issue is also the other advantage of that program. It is going to discourage a lot of corruption. Sometimes during the recruitment process, people are supposed to give money, people are supposed to do this and this, and people are given jobs on knowing who you know, and even selection being done in Nairobi. So by the time you are going to give NYS, we are going to pick the people who are so much interested in that job. The teachers, the issue of teachers is also very welcome. We are seeing this one bringing a lot of impact in our constituencies, and we also need to say if more chances are going to be available, this is very much welcome. Madam Speaker, we need just to comment on the issue of the housing project. This issue of making that sure any person is given an opportunity to get a house is a good idea. But some of us who are coming from disadvantaged areas or far from the main cities like Mombasa, Nairobi, Nakuru, like in Kajiado South, we need to see how by when are we going to be reached in the program of housing, because that is really going to help our people, as we are going to see that. The issue of community health workers getting money, the 50-50 arrangement, that the county government gives 50%, something like 50%, and national government gives 50%. I can assure that those people are so much happy, and those are the programs that we need to encourage, and we are so happy. I will not take much time because I see many members have interest. As I support the presidential address to the nation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mary Maingi, member from where?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. for giving me this opportunity to comment on this very important presidential speech. Madam Speaker, during economic downturns, large corporations often lay off employees to cut down on costs and to maintain profitability. Small-scale businesses play a critical role in promoting economic resilience and stimulating economic growth. The President, in his address, mentioned about the exemplary performance of the Hustler Fund with a disbursement of 36.6 billion, 2.3 billion in savings, 7.5 million of repeat borrowers, and an overall repayment rate of up to 73%. I would also like to observe that the President, in his speech, mentioned about the passing into law of the Universal Healthcare Bill that constitutes of the Primary Healthcare Act, the new Social Health Insurance Act, the Digital Health Act, the Facility Improvement Financing Act to provide healthcare to all Kenyans. This, Madam Speaker, is going to see all Kenyans access quality healthcare in our health facilities. Majority of our Kenyans cannot even afford to get themselves to a health facility because they can't even afford fare. When we talk of promoting preventive healthcare, we are going to see community healthcare workers go to people's doorstep and attend to people with minor ailments, and that is going to result into a very healthy workforce because people who are not healthy cannot go to work. Madam Speaker, the President also mentioned about the employment of 56,750 teachers. This is going to reduce the deficit in our teaching staff, and as a result, we are going to have an improved teacher-student contact. Overall, we are going to have an improved quality of education in our learning institutions. Madam Speaker, allow me to congratulate the President in his speech, which was full of inspiration and hope for all Kenyans. And with that, Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Aden Mohammed, member for Wajir East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for affording me this opportunity. I stand to support the speech of His Excellency the President. There were so many good things in that speech: digital transformation, more teachers for our schools, universal health care, and all that. But Madam Speaker, and fertilizer for agriculture and for coffee and things like that. But Madam Speaker, I come from a region called Northern Kenya, a region that has been marginalized for so many years. Madam Speaker, I am cognizant of the fact that there was sessional paper number 10 of 1965, which has prioritized development along the railway line. A lot of the things that were in the President's speech look to be a duplicate of that sessional paper. Madam Speaker, 3/4 of this nation is arid and semi-arid, and the mainstay of that 3/4 of this nation is livestock. I have not heard any mention of the livestock industry in the President's speech. I find that is something that was omitted and something that should be of importance to this nation. Madam Speaker, our President is very strong on climate change. Actually, he is a global ambassador and champion on matters climate change. Our country is synonymous with our President's very eloquent elucidation of the vagaries of climate change. Unfortunately, one of the big manifestations of climate change in our country right now is the El Nino phenomena. Again, I have not heard or seen any mention of the El Nino phenomena that is ravaging our country in the president's speech. I implore the president and his team also to take these phenomena very seriously. Parts of my constituency and major parts of northern Kenya are now under floods. Over 50 people have lost, unfortunately, have lost their life because of floods. Madam Speaker, our nation is paying about 1.871 trillion in debt this year. The biggest burden this country is facing is the debt burden. While I applaud the efforts His Excellency is making in reducing our debt burden and paying off at least a quarter of the Eurobond in advance before its maturity date of 30th June of this year, of next year, I have not seen a correspondent reduction in our appetite for expenditure. While we are paying for every 100 shilling we collect, we are paying 81 shillings to service our debt. We are still, as a country, gobbling up expenditure for things that are not necessary. I also would like to see that a reduction in our expenditure so that we can at least maintain our debts at sustainable levels. Madam Speaker, other than those few remarks, I find that the presidential speech was full of things that was good for this country, and I support the speech. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Rahim Dawood, member for North Imenti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I want to congratulate His Excellency the President on his State of the Nation speech. Madam Speaker, the first thing when President was sworn in, he signed in 6 judges of the Court of Appeal who were pending prior in the other administration, as well as increasing the judiciary fund. He increased it by 3 billion shillings, Madam Speaker, and the judiciary under my sister CJ Martha Koome has been doing exemplary well. Madam Speaker, the second thing His Excellency did, he made the IG, my brother again, IG Inspector Japhet Koome, as the accounting officer of the National Police Service as an independent away from Interior so that they can run their affairs properly. Madam Speaker, we have seen the expansion of the agriculture because of interventions which were done, reducing the fertilizer cost from 6,000 to 2,500, which have now resulted in an extra 18 million bags and more than 200,000 acres under maize production, Madam Speaker. That has even gone further to reduce the price of unga from 250, the highs of 250, to between 145 and 165, Madam Speaker. And I am really surprised, Madam Speaker, the opposition or the minority side have not acknowledged the reduction in prices of unga, which has been from the intervention of His Excellency the President. Madam Speaker, we have the affordable housing, and there are over 746,795 affordable houses in the pipeline, where these houses will create jobs for the Juakali sector. Not just create jobs, it will give a decent dwelling to the ones downtrodden, and the purchase is the ones who will be buying it. They will be buying it at the social housing will be at 3% interest, the affordable housing at 6% interest, and the market rates are 9%. So, Madam Speaker, it goes to show how much the President has thought about this affordable housing, because ordinarily, anybody who goes to a bank will not get less than 12% interest on loans. Madam Speaker, we talk about universal health care, and I thank this House for passing the 4 health bills. And Madam Speaker, the government, together with the county governments, has looked forward at the community health promoters. We will be employing over 100,000 community health promoters who will nip in the bud the diseases. They will go to each and every village. Instead of somebody having to come long distances to hospitals, they will be getting maybe interventions so that it does not go very far, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the government of His Excellency the President has invested heavily in the ICT sector, and there we are going to be having 1,450 digital hubs and over 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots. Madam Speaker, in my constituency, we have got already between 4 and 5 hotspots, free hotspots, which are assisting our market people and our residents in doing digital business. Madam Speaker, the government has got a very ambitious 100,000 kilometer fiber optic cables. Madam Speaker, the pensions we have is at the moment it's at 1.4 billion, but after coming into effect of the NSSF enhancements, we are at 6.5. Madam Speaker, the other thing is the markets and aggregation centers, which this government has brought forward. In my constituency, I've got 1 or 2 market aggregation centers, and I believe that is the way to go, and we thank His Excellency the President. Even in the digital, we've got more than 13,000 services which are now on e-citizen platform. So, Madam Speaker, when we are being told that there is nothing which this government...
The Honorable Richard Yegon, member for Bomet East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I also rise to contribute on this State of the Nation address by the President. Madam Speaker, I want to support the President in his speech, and I would like to put it this way. When he took over the office, there was a lot of challenges which this administration faced, and he's still trying to do his best. First of all, there was the issue of the COVID-19, which had ravaged the whole nation, including globally. And this contributed immensely to making the country a net importer of food. And I would like to say that this also took a lot of the revenues from the country. There is another issue also where the President talked about, whereby when he took over, he made the Inspector General of Police to be the accounting officer for the police, whereby thus making the police force financial autonomy. The cost of living being a reality, it has gone very high. This is not something which it is only this great nation of Kenya. It is also affecting all other countries. We have traveled to other countries. They are still talking about the same thing. The issue where the President also subsidized the fertilizer has given us an inch of trying to improve on these hard economic times. The cost of the 90 kgs of maize has come down from 6,500 to 4,000, 3,500 to 4,000 in my area. Thus, beginning a reality the issue of subsidizing production. Madam Speaker, the issue of distribution of these fertilizers, whereby the subsidy which was done for 5.5 billion bags of fertilizers, the President talked about further devolving these distribution units further to the local level, which is also going to give us, help our farmers in getting all this. The coolers also have been talked about by the President, which are going to be supplied to the farmers in all our areas, including my constituency, whereby areas have been, and there are some areas which have been pointed out where these cooling plants are going to be installed. The UHC, this is the universal health care also the President talked about, whereby it's going to make all our people to access health facilities in all our hospitals. This UHC is going to allow all our people not to venture into the issues of making harambes in order to access the health facilities, Madam Speaker. There is another issue of the pending bills. The President talked about clearing the pending bills before we start the new ones. The issues of infrastructure, whereby we are seeing it going on now. This is a reality where the President talks. I like the President talking about all these things, and it is making it now a reality because he is facing the bulls by the horns. We're holding the bull by the horns. And again, lastly, Madam Speaker, I want to say, before some people pointing hands at the President, I would like to ask also some of our honorable members who are very critical to this government to tell us what they have really done in their constituencies before bringing these issues of trying to point the fingers in this administration. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, this morning, seated in the public gallery, we have students from Riara International School, from Dagoretti constituency, Nairobi County. You are welcome to the National Assembly. The next opportunity, honorable members, will go to the member, the Honorable Ochanda. The Honorable Gideon Ochanda, member for Bondo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the President was carrying out a very critical national duty last week in this House. And it needs to be understood that it was a serious national duty. I only want to do 2-3 comments. And these comments, I ought to have played them when the majority leadership were here. Number one is the whole issue of the environment of the statements that we do. The second one is how do we package public information? And lastly, the support, the big support, huge support that's going to the counties from this financial year onwards. Madam Speaker, the environment which we operate in sometimes makes some of the statements that are done publicly not to be properly understood by the citizenry. We have a citizenry that is immediate. They want immediate results. They want results today. You talk about a fertilizer. They want that fertilizer in the farm today. They want the maize today. They want the products today. So this is one thing that when we package public information, particularly the segments of government that does this, needs to be very, very, very clear that we are talking about or we are communicating to a public that needs results now. So if we have things that are long-term, we have to package them in a manner that they don't appear like they are coming up tomorrow, yet they are long-term. And that is exactly where some of the information that is given now doesn't reach out very well. Who packages this information? This is something that I want to believe that the government needs to take up. How we package public information. A lot of public information are getting out when it is still very crude. And it becomes too difficult to correct them with the time. And this is exactly where we have, like I mentioned, segments of the government that are also not very sensitive. We are at a situation in this country that nobody should be talking about adding any levies, any taxes, or anything on the citizenry. And yet, you have segments of the government who is fully aware of this, but they are so insensitive to an extent that they still come up with these proposals and ideas that you have to raise the monies for doing IDs, you have to raise monies for marriages, and we are in an environment where some of these things are taken literally like that, and the social media moves too quickly and very fast ahead of most of the things that we do. And they exaggerate these things, and the exaggerated bits that the public gets to understand. It's the exaggerated bits that get to the public, get to the citizenry. So we really need to think that those segments of the government that instead of brewing up, instead of cooking things properly and making sure that at the end the product is ready to be eaten by the public, don't need to release information too quickly that's confusing the public. That's one thing that I wanted to bring, Madam Speaker, that is critical. The other bit that I wanted to bring, Madam Speaker, is the support that we are extending to the counties. It is indicated in the speech. It is indicated in the budget. It is indicated in the things that we have done here. But we need to look at these things again because they are going to be a problem in future. We are talking about public health promoters. The national government is committing 2,500 to each one of them, and is supposed to be matched by a county government. What if a county government fails to match that? And when is this thing going to be happening? We are talking about industrial parks. The county governments are supposed to match 250 million. What if they fail to do it? We are talking about the markets. The national government is going to support a number of markets. For example, in my county, there are like 5 markets that the national government is going to place money. But the markets are supposed to be done or are supposed to be left with the county government. How will they do it? So I think there are things that the government really needs to start looking at afresh. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem to this country later on. That the national government will pay, there will be no matching money from the side of the county government. And in the end, the national government is going to be blamed. You know, the county government has people. They are closer to the people. When you release your 2,500 and they fail, they'll say that it is yours that failed. And they'll get to the communities much more quickly than the national government. I think the government needs to look at this very, very seriously and afresh. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Hilary Kosgei, member for Kipkelion West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to add my voice to the President's speech. And I want to begin, Madam Speaker, by saying that during the Great Depression of the 1930s, the American people were faced by serious economic times. And the then President, Franklin Roosevelt, came out with a speech to calm an anxious nation, Madam Speaker. And he said that our values have shrunken to fantastic levels, our taxes have fallen, our taxes have risen, our ability to pay has fallen. Government finds itself with serious curtailment of income, and the means of exchange is frozen in all fronts and areas of trade. And he finally told them, Madam Speaker, that the American people had nothing to fear but fear itself. And what did the American public respond to the speech of their president, Madam Speaker? They realized the enormous task that the president had and decided to rally to a man to the efforts of the president to remove America out of the Great Depression. Madam Speaker, the situation in this country is not unique. Madam Speaker, Kenyans must be reminded that the Kenya Kwanza administration took over government when the economy was in ICU. And Madam Speaker, the President, being the surgeon that he is, started work immediately to help to remove the economy out of the ICU all the way to the HDU, and is now stabilizing it in the wards, Madam Speaker. And he started, Madam Speaker, by suspending our free and excess spending by cutting it by 300, the first supplementary by 300 billion. He also started by moving the country away from subsidizing consumption towards subsidizing production. And that is where you see successes, Madam Speaker, in the areas of agriculture, where we subsidized fertilizer to 2,500 shillings, and the farmers of Kenya went to their farms and produced for this country 200,000 more bags than the previous years, Madam Speaker. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the President moved to a more important area Madam Speaker, by now using this speech to tell the Kenyan people the economic situation as it is now and the measures that he is adopting, Madam Speaker, to make sure that the patient, which is the economy, is removed from the ward and released. And therefore, Madam Speaker, as we contribute to this president's speech, I am calling on the people of Kenya to trust their president, to remove them out of this economic hardship, Madam Speaker. And these economic hardships were put on us by the excess spending by the previous government. And it is all over, Madam Speaker. You see social media reports the other day when the roofs of JKIA are leaking. The current Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, Mr. Kipchumba Murkomen, is blamed instead of blaming the tenderpreneurs who had captured the previous regime, who implemented that project, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we need to be candid and to tell the people that the mess that was created by the previous regime is what the president is cleaning. And Madam Speaker, it is what is going to form the foundation for progress for the Republic of Kenya. And I want to assure the people of Kenya, this country shall rise and it shall be good. So, Madam Speaker, what are the areas the president touched on? Madam Speaker, we have passed the four bills, the four healthcare bills. That is going to transform healthcare and remove cartels who are used to reaping Kenyan money from the NHIF scheme, and to enable the people of Kenya to get free medication going forward, funded by their government and the taxes of the people of Kenya. Number two, Madam Speaker.
1 minute for him. 1 minute. Please conclude.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The second one is the reforms in the coffee sector, the dairy sector, and the sugar sector, Madam Speaker, where we have waived over 117 billion non-performing loans to the farmers of Kenya and send a warning to the cartels that were used to occupying that space, that it is time for them to get out of the space and the Kenyan farmer to benefit from the activities and of their present government, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, on the NYS, the president promised that going forward, we will take 40,000 cohorts from every village, which would be used as a basis for recruitment to the forces to avoid situations where Kenyans are forced to pay money to get opportunities for recruitment in the disciplined forces, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the speech was good and it has a lot of things that time cannot allow. Let me stop there and beg to support, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Lillian Sioi, Member for Trans Nzoia County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance to also contribute on the speech from the Excellency President last week. Madam Speaker, I want to appreciate the President on one, the fertilizer, being a farmer and being a member of Parliament from Trans Nzoia County, a county that is a food basket for this country, Madam Speaker. On the issue of fertilizer, the President thought it well that it is better to subsidize the fertilizer and not subsidize the prices of unga, Madam Speaker. The President has killed two birds using one stone, Madam Speaker. This is because the cost of unga has come down after the fertilizer was subsidized. And right now, people who are on the street demonstrating on the unga issue, I am sure that they are very comfortable because the prices of unga has gone down, Madam Speaker. Secondly, I also want to speak on the issue of health, because this is a basic need: food, health, education, and shelter. And on the four issues, Madam Speaker, the President touched each of them one by one, of which he has already worked on it, Madam Speaker. On the health issue, Madam Speaker, the President thought it wise coming up with the primary health care, of which it is better to prevent. When we have the measures to prevent diseases in this country, Madam Speaker, we will cut down on the cost of expenses when it comes to medication, Madam Speaker. So I want to say that the President has done, and we have to applaud what he has already done, Madam Speaker. I know criticism has to be there because it is normal, but the criticism that we are putting across is not worth it, Madam Speaker. I'm saying this because when this government took over, already the prices of unga was high. When this government took over, already the prices of fuel was up, Madam Speaker. And as people are already pushing our president to subsidize the prices of fuel, it is not possible because when we put subsidies on fuel, we will be killing other ministries, Madam Speaker. This is not in the mandate of the president. He has tried his best and he's working out to ensure that the basic needs that this country or our Kenyans need are already being worked on, Madam Speaker. I also want to urge members of parliament, especially members of parliament from opposition, it is good to speak the truth. At times, this, our electors are depending on us to tell them the truth, to lead them and explain to them what is happening in this country. So when we stand here and lie that is the president who is increasing the prices of fuel, it will be very wrong and we are misleading the electorate, Madam Speaker. So I want to applaud the speech from the president and I want to congratulate him for what he is doing. I know when you are coming into a new house, at times it is very difficult to work out things fast as people expect. Sometimes when we are getting into relationships, when we are courting, we think that it will be a bed of roses as usual. Then when you get there, you come to realize that it is more difficult. So when the president came in, he thought that we are not in ICU as it is at the moment. He realized later that things are worse than what he expected. And he's really trying his best to ensure that he brings up the economy of this country. And we want to pray for him. And as members of parliament, we also want to help him to ensure that he achieves the agendas that he promised to this country. And just to conclude on something, on issues to do with fertilizer, there is one issue, a problem that has been caused by employees from the cereals board. We have cartels there who are also buying fertilizers that are subsidized and selling to the farmers, the rightful farmers of this country. So I would urge that the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Agriculture checks on this so that we ensure that real farmers get fertilizers at a subsidized price. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Deco Balo, member for Garissa Township.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the speech by the President and appreciate.
Order, Honorable member for Garissa. I would like to encourage the member for the Honorable Wario. I would like to encourage you to sit if your intention was to speak because you are not far. Thank you. You may proceed, Honorable member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the report and the speech by the President and appreciate for his wisdom and charisma in representing his report. Madam Speaker, if you read the speech of the President and the report of the President, there is a connection between his speech of this year, the speech of last year, and the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza government. While he was campaigning, the President made promises and pledges to this country, and it is a report he's giving us that after 1 year of my presidency, and he has laid that foundation in the first year, in his first speech, that this is the report of I'm giving you as a country, the hope that you should be looking forward to as a country. Madam Speaker, as a leader of a country like Kenya, you need to make, sometimes you are forced to make very hard decisions, very painful decisions, but for the betterment for tomorrow. So what the President gave us was a report from last year since he started this. What he had pledged and promised Kenyans required some issues, required legislation and policy changes. And that's what we have worked on as a country or as a parliament or as a government in the last 1 year. For example, Madam Speaker, the President promised and pledged to this country on a number of issues like education. Now we have a new model of funding for our university education, where almost 45,000 Kenyan students are going to benefit for almost 80% fees reduction. We have 56,000 new teachers who are recruited to cover the gap that was missing over the years. There is JSS funding, both infrastructure and capitation. Madam Speaker, if you look and sum all that in the education sector, it means that there is going to be a burden removed from the people of Kenya, the parents of Kenya, who are not able to pay for their students for their education. Madam Speaker, if I read the report on food production, the subsidy, the president is giving us a report that the subsidy, the production subsidy he has given this country has now, the result has now been seen. That the unga has reduced from 265 per 2 kg pack to 170 per 2 kg pack. That means that it has worked. The program he has put in place has worked. The other issue is that the sunflower production. This country, the second highest importation after petroleum is edible oil. Now that they are giving out subsidized sunflower seeds to encourage farmers to grow, it means that in the next 1 year, in the next 1 year speech of the president, in the next address or the next report, we will have information on that subsidy on sunflower production. There is also a value addition to this agricultural production, in that he had promised us, and we signed with him a charter during the campaigns, that they will be putting up industrial parks in every county. And I want to report that for my county, we have already started that project, and that that will cover post-harvest losses for our farmers. Madam Speaker, the other aspect that the president also talked about was employment, housing, affordable housing, for social housing, market housing programs. All this was intended not only to create decent housing for our people, but also employment for our young people. The other issue was universal health coverage. We have changed, talked about it here in this house. NHIF reduced from 6,500 per family to now 375. 100,000 universal health workers employed. These all, if you look at it, will reduce the cost of living for the people of this country. Hustler Fund, very encouraging, 73%.
You spoke very well, actually. You have concluded very well. The Honorable Zahir Janda, member for Nyarimbari Chache. The Honorable Zahir Janda, member for Nyarimbari Chache.
Thank you.
You are disturbing the Honorable Jared Okello. You know, I observed you. You crossed the floor. And I decided to leave it out because I didn't want to interfere with a member who was on his feet. So I want to encourage you, please take your seat and give an opportunity to the Honorable Zahir Janda, member for Nyaribari Chache, to be heard in silence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the President's speech because the President undertook to ensure urgent transformation of our economy when he assumed office last year. And Madam Speaker, we can see there is progress that has been made so far in enhancing food production, creating employment, and taming inequality. Madam Speaker, we have been seeing a lot of we have seen a lot of progress. In fact, there is the construction of 400 markets, the whole country, complete with water, electricity, and other amenities across the nation. In enhanced, for example, Madam Speaker, in my constituency, we have 3 new markets coming up, Keumbu, Birongo, and Amariba, which is a very great progress. Madam Speaker, I come from Nyanza. The government is restructuring the sugar sector. We have seen recently the president has been fighting cartels in the sugar industry. And with the approval of this House, Madam Speaker, the government is going to pay about 1.8 billion shillings before the end of this year to the farmers in this country. Madam Speaker, I want to seek and ask my countrymen and women to give the president time. This man, His Excellency William Ruto, is working extraordinarily hard to ensure that he revives this economy. As Kenyans are aware, we inherited a dilapidated economy, an economy that had collapsed. Today, we are doing well. The economy is not so good, but the president is doing all he can to ensure that all is well. Lastly, Madam Speaker, the president is on the right trajectory because we can see he had said before the end of June next year, 500 billion shillings will be the debt that is there of the Euro bond. We are going to make the payment. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I want to say that please, my fellow citizens, let us support this government. The president is doing well. I support the president's speech. Thank you.
The Honorable Ali Wario, member for Garsen.
Asante sana Speaker kwa fursa hii. Mimi pia napenda kupongeza rais kwa hotuba nzuri. Mimi nataka kuongea kuhusu usalama wa nchi na usalama wa ndani. Vile rais amesisitiza hapa, Mheshimiwa Speaker, inashangaza sana wakati serikali inatia bidii zote usalama ipatikane katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Jamii wanazidi kuzozana, inafaa kutafutwa kini hasa inayosababisha jamii kukosana. Ndio maana hiyo labda serikali haitumii mbinu mwafaka ya kusaidia jamii kuishi kwa amani. Ndio maana hiyo mimi nasisitiza jamii kwanza, hasa wazee, kitengo muhimu sana, ihusishwe, waongozi wahusishwe katika mambo ya usalama. Haiwezekani mtu wako katika ofisi za serikali labda yeye anaamini kwamba kuleta usalama ni kutumia nguvu ama mabavu ama unyanyasaji. Hiyo haiwezi kasaidia. Mimi nasisitiza sana na napongeza rais kwa hiyo hotuba mambo ya usalama. Watu jamii wahusishwe, jamii husika, na hasa wazee na waongozi. Ni ajabu sana kwamba waziri anaweza kwenda sehemu na labda waongozi waliochaguliwa kutohusishwa ati inaenda kuwekwa usalama. Hiyo haiwezekani. Ndio maana sehemu za hizi Rift Valley amani haipatikani. Hata serikali ikipeleka jeshi haiwezi likaleta usalama. Mambo mengine ya usalama, vijana wanapotezwa kwa kusingizia mambo ya ugaidi, labda waongozi wa dini. Hiyo haiwezi kasaidia. Lazima serikali wabadilishe mbinu. Hawa vijana labda wanashukiwa kwa mambo ya ugaidi. Nini inasababisha hiyo? Labda hawahusiki, labda ni kusingiziwa, ama labda kuna mambo ya food security, mambo ya njaa. Lazima hiyo iangaliwe. Mambo mengine, Madam Speaker, ni mambo ya vile subsidized fertilizer inasemekana. Madam Speaker, sisi ni wafugaji wengine wetu wengi. Mimi na serikali inasisitiza mambo za kahawa, mambo ya majani chai, mambo ya mahindi na kadhalika. Na huwezi ukakula hiyo mahindi bila mboga ya nyama. Kwa hivyo serikali pia itie vikwazo mambo ya ufugaji na mambo ya mifugo, iwekwe pesa ya kisawasawa ndio ufugaji iendelee, kwa sababu ufugaji ni mambo ya culture na uchumi na inachangia pakubwa sana katika uchumi wa nchi yetu. Hiyo lazima iangaliwe. na pia naomba na husia serikali, watu wamelima sana. Saa hii mambo ya fladi, mafuriko imeathiri sana watu pakubwa. Watu wamelima shamba, chakula imetoa mazao, sasa maji imeanza kubeba. Kwa hivyo serikali ifikirie mbinu ya kupatia fidia hawa jamii ambao wameathirika, na ili watu wakuwe na moyo wa kulima zaidi. Ndio njia pekee ya kusaidia. Lakini mambo ambayo inatokea saa hii ya dharura, mambo ya hii maji vile imekuja, serikali isaidie watu pamoja na mambo ya kujenga. Mambo ya hii housing program kwanza ianze na rural, watu huko mashambani, kwa sababu sisi watu wanahama kutoka mashambani kuja sehemu za town. Lakini kama wangejengwa kule sehemu za mashambani, watu wangebaki huko, wawekee maji, wawekee usalama na mabarabara kadhalika, ndio watu encourage waishi katika sehemu hiyo. Asante sana Madam Speaker.
Asante Mheshimiwa. The Honorable Bernard Shinali, member for Ikolomani, seems to have withdrawn from the chamber. The Honorable Joseph Kahangara, member for Lari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute towards the presidential speech. Of course, we all know the President was discharging his responsibility under Article 132, where he has to give the state of the nation to Kenyans and to tell them how whatever has been done and what he intends to do to bring economic transformation in this country. Madam Speaker, let me say that this speech came just at the right time, for the reasons that the President took over this country with a dilapidated economy. Kenyans out there, of course, are also crying because of the cost of living, and they have just been asking themselves whether this was the right government. And for that reason, we out there as politicians have been trying our best to explain to Kenyans that the President means well and he has a lot of plans for this country. When the President spoke, of course, he reminded us that when he took over government, the cost of living, of course, was high. There were pending bills. There were many contractors who had not been paid. If you go back to, for example, my constituency, where we are beneficiaries of the Mau roads, there are contractors who are still, who have moved out of sight simply because they have not been paid. The escalating debts, of course, has been a thorn in flesh in this country, and many stalled projects. And the President has been telling us that the plan that his campaign manifesto was not just written on paper, but it's something that was meant to be implemented. And indeed, we have already seen that the plan is being actualized from the speech that he gave us. One, the cost of living, the cost of food, the unga has gone up. President has ensured that he did subsidize fertilizer, and he tells us that he found it not reasonable to subsidize consumption. He decided that he's going to subsidize production so that we have enough food, and we'll let the market forces play, where the demand and supply will determine the prices. And now we can actually see that from the production that we have in this country, the cost of food has really gone down. The President did talk about the creation of jobs for our young people. One of the ways he intends to do that is the construction of the affordable houses. As much as the houses are also going to help the working class in the urban areas, many jobs are going to be created. There are many youths who are going to be employed, who are going to be engaged in the constructions, and that will mean that the issue of unemployment is going to be taken care of. For example, in Lari, constituency where I come from, we are going to have the construction of a smart city under the affordable housing, where we are going to have some 5,000 units that will mean creating job opportunities for our people. The President has talked about the creation of the ICT hubs in every ward, and that will mean that also our people can actually be able to work from home and creating employment. The EPZs and the markets, we have markets that are going to be built in our areas. We come from an agricultural area, and the market like the Sokomjinga, which is going to be Sokomwerevu after this, is one of the markets that's going to be constructed. And may I say that the President, by the introduction of the Hustler Fund, has ensured that many people who could not access credit from the banks have been able to access the Hustler Fund, and they're able to start many opportunities in terms of creating jobs for themselves and their families. And with that, Madam Speaker, I wish to congratulate and support the speech. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Liza Chelule, member for Nakuru County.
Asante sana Madam Speaker kunipatia nafasi huu. Pia nichangie taarifa ya President wetu ambaye amekuwa kwenye bunge na akatueleza mambo mengi ambaye amepanga kwa nchi yetu ya Kenya. Ningetaka kuchukua hii nafasi kumpongeza sana. Mheshimiwa Speaker, tunapoongea mambo ya maendeleo ya nchi yetu ya Kenya, sisi wote tunaelewa mambo vile ilikuwa yeye mwenyewe akishika kuwa president ya nchi hii. Tunaelewa vizuri tulikuwa na shida, changamoto ya mambo ya economy ya nchi hii. Kama president angechukua njia ya kwenda kulete madeni kutoka nchi zingine, saa hii wengi angekuwa popular ama angependwa na wengi. Lakini yeye mwenyewe kama kiongozi ambaye anaajibika kwa nchi ya kwa watu ya nchi ya Kenya, yeye mwenyewe alichagua kudeal na mambo ya Kenya na Kenyans. Kwa hivyo nataka kuchukua hii nafasi kumpongeza. Yeye akwenda kuchukua deni, vile zile madeni zuku ambayo tuko nayo katika nchi yetu ya Kenya ni zile zilichukuliwa bila hata Kenyans kujua. Kwa hivyo nataka kuchukua hii nafasi kumpongeza, kufika kwenye bunge na kueleza taarifa yake kulingana na uongozi ya nchi yetu ya Kenya. Nataka kuongea juu ya mambo ya affordable houses ambaye imeanzishwa na inaendelea. Nataka kujibu mjumbe wa Pondo mwenye alisema president wetu anaongea mambo mengi na atekelezi. So ninashangaa sana kwa nini mjumbe mzima anaweza sema mambo mengi sinasema na president na atekelezi. Ametekeleza mambo ya affordable houses, ametekeleza mambo ya fertilizer. Wakati huu wananchi wa Kenya wamechukua fertilizer ambaye wameweza kulima, wameweza kuwa na chakula mengi, hivyo ni kutatua shida ya njaa katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Nilifurahi sana wakati aliposema anataka kuaibisha mambo ya njaa katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na kwa kusema kweli amefanya hivyo sababu ametupatia fertilizer. Mimi pia nikiwa mjumbe, mimi pia ni mkulima. Nimefurahi sana kwa hiyo fertilizer sababu imeniwezesha niwe na mafuno ambayo imenisaidia kwangu kwa mambo ya chakula. Mimi siwezi kwenda mahali kwa maduka kununua chakula, na watu wengi pia walipata chakula mengi na hata wakaweza zingine akaweza kuuza zingine. Ngine Madam Speaker ni mambo ya Hustlers Fund. Hustlers Fund zile pesa zimechukuliwa na kina mama, vikundi ya kina mama, na kina mama ninajua wengi ambao walichukua hizo pesa ni kina mama. Ni pesa ambayo imehesabika kwa mabilioni, na ninafurahi sana sababu watu wamefaidika. Hakuna mtu amekaa nyumbani kiolela sababu hana pesa. Ninajua kwa kusema kweli tuko na ugumu kidogo kuhusu mambo ya uchumi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, lakini sio hiyo kusema tuketi tu tuketi tu tukilia. Tuko tukisikia mambo ya president wetu, mambo ya fertilizer, watu wachukue, mambo ya loan watu wachukue ndio waweze kuendelea na mambo ya biashara zao. Nataka kuiguzia pia mambo ya community health promoters, wale watendakazi ya serikali ambao watakuwa wakilipwa na county government na watakuwa wakilipwa na serikali ya national, pia kutembea pale nyumbani kuangalia afya ya wananchi pale nyumbani ili waweze kutatua shida ya wale wako wagonjwa at that early stage. Ionekane kwamba mtu akiwa na tatizo fulani anaweza kutibika kwa wakati mzuri. Hii ni mambo ya kutatua mambo ya health ama mambo ya afya katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, sababu hiyo ndio ya maana sana. Mambo ya afya, mambo ya chakula, na mambo ya kuendeleza mambo ya biashara katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Napongeza president wetu pia kwa mambo ya climate change. Juzi on Monday or Tuesday tulikuwa na mambo ya upanzi wa miti katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, na nataka kuamini tuliweza kupanda zaidi ya 800 seedlings ama karibu bilioni 1 ya miti katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Hiyo ndio hatua maalum ya kuhakikisha tumetatua mambo ya climate change ama mambo ya mazingira katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Ninampongeza sana na ninasema heko President, Mungu akusaidie, tuko nyuma yako. Asante sana.
Mheshimiwa John Waluke, mbunge wa Sirisia.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me opportunity also to contribute on this very important speech that was given by the President of the Republic of Kenya. Madam Speaker, it is always easy, like when footballers are in the field, the spectators outside there can criticize and say everything about the players. But Madam Speaker, when you are also in the field, inside the field, you cannot show that you can play. The President has tried, Madam Speaker. In his speech, Madam Speaker, there are so many things that he mentioned that are good for the country, for us as a country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, things like ICT, Madam Speaker, if it goes all over this country, Madam Speaker, it is going to help Kenya to become digital, and it is going to help even our children to use it, look for jobs outside Kenya, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the President took over this country when it was down completely. The economy of the country, Madam Speaker, was in ICU. It was down, and many of us, even me as a member of Parliament, Madam Speaker, I thought that maybe we were not going to be getting salaries because of our economy being at that time, Madam Speaker, it was down completely. Madam Speaker, is trying to improve the economy of this country, and he touched on many aspects that, Madam Speaker, made some of us feel happy that the President, indeed, he is trying. Madam Speaker, as leaders, as members of Parliament, for example, we need to be patriot to our country, whether you are in opposition or whether you are in government. This country is ours. This country belongs to us as Kenyans, and there's nowhere where we can go. There are people even who went abroad and they go and come back. Kenya is there to stay, and as Kenyans we need to support this government of William Ruto and Gachagua, because it was voted by us as Kenyans. And what we need, Madam Speaker, is to give this government time, because it's barely only 1 year in office. What we need to do, Madam Speaker, is to give it time and support. Things are changing. Things are going to change. He talked about the Inspector General of Police being independent now from the office of the President, because, Madam Speaker, the police were not being managed well by the office of the President, but now being independent, I'm sure that police outside there, they are feeling good that the Inspector General himself is going to take care of them. The money that he gave to the judiciary, the 3 billion that judiciary has been asking since independent, Madam Speaker, now judiciary, the backlog of the cases in courts, Madam Speaker, I think they are going to be settled, and our people are not going to stay in custody due to lack of judges and magistrates because they have been given money. Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Julius Taitumu, member for Igembe North.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me also take the cue in congratulating His Excellency the President of this country for his candid and informative speech that he delivered last week. Madam Speaker, extraordinary times require extraordinary measures. The President enumerated various successes of his nascent government. Madam Speaker, I want to single out one key sector that has benefited immensely under this government, and this is the education sector. Madam Speaker, one of the honorable members saying that teachers have only been employed as interns and no permanent and pensionable teachers. I want to say categorically that is wrong, and we should give credit where it is due. I am being a teacher for the last 10 years. The only number of teachers who have been employed in a particular year due to lack of funding is 5,000. This government has employed a massive 56,000 teachers to serve as on basis of either permanent and pensionable or as interns. This, Madam Speaker, has a great impact. Some don't understand that these teachers who are employed, most of them have been out since they completed their courses for 10 years. And this one has reduced immensely the burden that used to be carried by the parent to pay teachers who were employed on board of management as their employer or the PTA basis. And this money now will go to other issues. Madam Speaker, on the same sector, around 8,400 teachers transited from one grade to another after they were moved from their previous grade to the junior secondary sector. This year alone, 36,000 teachers are being destined to promotion, which are due by January next year. Madam Speaker, the agricultural sector has also benefited greatly. Farmers have been able to get subsidized fertilizers. They have also been able to get many miracle coolers to cushion them from the vagaries of having their milk going bad within a very short time. Registration of farmers has been conducted. The coffee sector, the coffee farmers, payments were good this particular year. The other area is the fishing industry. We have seen the president, even those who are challenging his speech, roll out 22 landing sites in all 9 counties of Kisumu. Madam Speaker, if you go to the aeronautics sector, this house itself has enacted various laws to make sure that this sector is streamlined. One of the areas is Social Health Insurance Act that has been done, the Digital Health Act, the Primary Health Act, and above all, rolling out 100,000 health promoters in our areas to make sure that our population is healthy for the betterment of our economy and for the betterment of their lives. Finally, Madam Speaker, I want to say, and I want to implore upon to His Excellency the President of this country, to make sure that the barbaric act of cattle rustling in this country is brought to the earth, because the pastoral community and the areas that do this kind of farming are suffering a lot due to this heinous act of the cattle.
The Honorable Rashid Benziba, member for Kisauni.
Asante sana Madam Speaker kwa kunipa fursa kuchangia hotuba hii ya Mheshimiwa Rais iliyokuwa hapa Alhamisi iliyopita. Kwa kweli Wakenya wengi walitegemea kusikia vipi hali ya gharama za maisha itakavyoshuka ama kupunguzwa kwa makali yake. Lakini la kusikitisha Mheshimiwa Speaker ni mizigo mizito ya kodi kwa Wakenya. Hatupingi kodi, lakini mapato ya Wakenya yanazidi kupungua. Hivi sasa watu wananunua unga robo. Tujiulize sisi hapa, ni vipi tutakunja sera ya kodi bila kuvunja migongo ya Wakenya? Mheshimiwa Speaker, Kenya si Ulaya wala Marekani. Sera ya kodi yafaa kuzingatia hali ya uchumi. Uchumi wetu wategemea wengi wa mapato ya chini. Bila shaka hustlers hawawezi kulipa kodi kama viwanda ama nchi zilizostawi. Ndiposa nasema tukunje bila kuvunja mbavu za Wakenya. Mheshimiwa Speaker, kuhusu kushusha bei ya mbolea ni jambo la muhimu sana Mheshimiwa Rais amefanya, kwa sababu inavunja ama inakata gharama ndogo za wakulima. Lakini shida bado iko pale pale Mheshimiwa Speaker, kwa sababu gharama za mbolea zimeshuka, lakini mkulima anaenda dukani, ananunua mbolea ile, anatumia chombo kinachotumia mafuta kumletea katika shamba lake. Anapofika shambani, ile tingatinga linalolima linatumia mafuta, linalima pale kwa kutumia mafuta ambao gharama bado inakaa pale pale. Akimaliza mazao yanakuwa ni mengi kweli, lakini kuyasafirisha pale paka viwandani ni anatumia tena vyombo vya mafuta ambavyo vinapeleka ile mazao katika shamba, katika viwanda. Na akifika viwandani vile vile, kama ile bidhaa ni ya kusagwa, inatumia mafuta tena kusagwa yale mazao. Bado gharama za maisha, akitoka pale kupeleka sokoni, bado anatumia gharama tena kubwa zaidi. Kikubwa ni kwamba tuangalie vipi tutashukisha bei ya mafuta, kwa sababu bei ya mafuta ndio inayochangia kila jambo ambalo linafanya hali ya maisha kuwa magumu. Kwa hivyo mbolea ni sawa, lakini mafuta ni lazima yaangaliwe vipi itaweza kushukishwa. Watu wengi hasa wa Kisauni na Pwani kwa jumla wanataka kunufaika kutokana na rasilimali zilizo katika sehemu zetu kama bahari, mbuga za wanyama pori, madini. Wapwani vipi watafaidika? Lakini katika hotuba hii hakuna chochote kilionyesha vipi tutafaidika sisi katika swala hilo ama katika rasilimali zetu. Hili swala la kulaumu serikali iliyopita lazima likome na liishe, kwa sababu sasa tangu serikali hii ichukue mamlaka ni mwaka mzima. Vipi tunakaa bado tunasema ile serikali iliyotoka, watu washawasahau waliotoka? Vipi nyinyi mko hapa bado mwalaumu? Ni mkae chini muone mna mipango gani ya kuweza kuboresha hali ya maisha badala ya kulaumu serikali iliyopita. Kuhusu ajira za walimu milioni 56,000, kwa kweli hii ajira inasangazwa tu, lakini wengi hata tuioni, kwa sababu kama ingefanywa kihaki walimu 56,000 ingekuwa kila eneo bunge lingepata walimu 193, at least kila mtu angeona kwamba kweli walimu wameandikwa. Lakini ukija katika eneo bunge kama la Kisauni, walimu wameandikwa 2 pekee, 2 pekee. Hiyo hata hatuihisi sisi kama kumeandikwa walimu. Lazima kuwe na usawa kwamba ikiwa ni ajira kwa Wakenya, ni ajira ya Kenya nzima. Mheshimiwa Spika, hata kama tunataka kukamua ng'ombe, tuhakikishe kwamba tunambakishia maziwa, at least ndama wake aweze pia kupata. Tusimkamue ng'ombe paka damu tuone anatoa matoni ya damu. Kwa kweli Wakenya wengi hawakutegemea yale ambayo yamezungumzwa, walitegemea mengi ambayo yangewanufaisha, kwa sababu wananchi wanaumia, hali ya uchumi ni mbaya, fedha hakuna mifukoni. Mtoe kodi mtu ambaye anayo mapato. Kwa haya Mheshimiwa Spika, wacha nitoe fursa kwa wengine pia waweze kuchangia. Asante sana.
The Honorable David Kiplangat, member for Soi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I really, on behalf of the people of Soi, I really want to support the presidential address. The president managed to cover quite a number of ground in only 1 year. First of all, if we go to agriculture, if there is something the government has really done well, is to support our farmers, especially the maize farmers, with the subsidized fertilizer, which the government managed to reduce from over 7,000 Kenya shillings to now 2,500 Kenya shillings. We have managed to increase the amount of acreage as a result of that by 200,000 acres. And also we have managed to increase production of maize by 18 million bags. And I can assure you, with that alone, we shall have enough produce to last us for 1 financial year or 1 fiscal year without the necessity of doing importation of maize. You realize, Madam Speaker, where we are standing as a country, we have a lot of challenges, both in terms of challenges beyond our control as a government. As you realize, the issues of fuel is being controlled from external forces, and it is really challenging on our economy. We have the depreciation of the Kenyan shilling that is also bringing a lot of problems. But the only way we can strengthen the Kenyan shilling is to ensure that we increase our exports, at the same time we reduce our imports. And as we realize that for the last 1 year, because of the weather conditions that wasn't good, we were importing nearly everything. We were importing maize, which was duty-free. We are importing rice, which is also duty-free. We are also importing sugar, and we are also importing edible oil. That alone, in terms of the loss of revenue to this country, is a lot. Secondly, in terms of the amount of foreign exchange it requires in terms of dollars to be able to purchase food from outside countries. So if we can be able, as the President has stated, that by the year 2025, there will be no importation of any food product. If we can be able to do that, I can assure you the balance of trade will change by having the country being a net exporter, and with that we shall be able to strengthen our Kenyan shilling to go where it was. Because if we have factors of depreciation in the Kenyan shilling and also the rise in fuel prices, then it will really affect our economy. So we really support the President on that. And secondly, where the government has really done well is on the issue of trying to support our universities. You remember our universities were actually being declared technically insolvent by the amount of huge debt that they were carrying. But the formula in which the President has come up through the education sector, in terms of making sure that we give money to our institutions through student-based program, by making sure that every course is costed, and the costing of that course is supported by the government, will go a long way in making our universities to be able to function well by doing away with the current debt that they have. And if you look at, in summary, what the President has done for the last 1 year, trying to keep our economy afloat. He has really done a lot, and as Parliament, we really support the President to make sure that going forward by 2025, all the factors will be addressed that are causing challenges to our economy, and the economy will be able to fly again. Thank you.
Honorable Moses Ijendi, member for Malava.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also arise to laud the State of the Nation address by the President of this country. Madam Speaker, I listened to the President through his speech, and he touched on so many key areas that are very important for this country to take to development. Mr. Speaker, I would urge actually Kenyans to give this President time and believe in what he's telling us. Madam Speaker, when I was a young person, youthful, I saw what this President actually did when he was Minister for Education. At that time, most of us were suffering joining university after staying at home for so many years, 3 years, and long recesses. But Madam Speaker, when he took over this ministry, all this changed, fast-tracked admission of university students, reduced the number of months we would stay at home. And then also, Madam Speaker, when he was Minister for Agriculture, he also did so much for this country, a lot of reformation. So, Madam Speaker, he is a person that has, we have actually learned from him in the past performance, and therefore we can trust him for this particular country. Madam Speaker, I want to focus particularly on agriculture and what is thinking about this particular sector. Madam Speaker, I'm really concerned because when you speak to him, I've had an opportunity to interact with him at a very personal level. He's my neighbor down there. Madam Speaker, this is a person who is seeing far much ahead, more than what some of us are actually projecting. Madam Speaker, he focuses so much on agricultural sector, and we are aware most of these countries that are developed, most of them were actually agricultural countries. And when you look at their history of development, they first of all began with investing so much in the agricultural sector because most of them were predominantly agriculture. They invested so much in the agricultural sector, and Madam Speaker, out of this, they actually sprang to the higher levels they are in now of industrialized or first world countries. So, Madam Speaker, if we really have to move that direction, then we have to take to that route where we have to invest so much in the agricultural sector, which will now spur growth in our economy. Madam Speaker, why am I really focusing on agriculture? You know, most of us, most of our people, or the majority of Kenyans' population works in the agricultural sector, agricultural farms. So when you invest in this particular sector, then these are the people you'll be addressing. These are the people who will be making income. These are the people who will be actually contributing to the economy in terms of tax and et cetera, and therefore reduce even the levels of poverty. Madam Speaker, we know, even me who is standing here, I can only stand here, and all the other Kenyans who are healthy like myself, when you have eaten well. So food is so critical for our country. Madam Speaker, when you look at the President, his focus on agriculture is to ensure that we are a healthy nation. You know, when we have no food, it will mean most of us will be weak in terms of strength, will be sickling in terms of malnutrition, and therefore, Madam Speaker, we will not have the capacity to perform as required in terms of productivity. Madam Speaker, also, you know, when you have no food, most of the incomes we have then we will be spending on purchasing food. Madam Speaker, we are also aware that most of our population works in the agricultural sector, and therefore, when we improve on this, it will mean that our incomes...
Honorable David Kiplangat, you still have your few seconds. I'll give you 1 minute. I know you are still learning the rules of the House, but you're not supposed to stand in between the chair and the person who is speaking. So you can take that lesson home so that you don't repeat. You will have 1 more minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So Madam Speaker, we are aware, and if Kenyans are not aware, agriculture sector employs 40% of the national population. When it comes to the actual rural population, it employs over 75%. So, Madam Speaker, when you focus on this particular sector in terms of development, you can imagine the kind of persons you'll be actually focusing to improve their lives. And finally, Madam Speaker, I want to finish by saying that dependency rates are very high. And this is coming from persons particularly who are uneducated, persons who are unskilled. So when we focus on agriculture, Madam Speaker, we will actually be reducing dependency rate in the country, because these are people who will now find work to do and therefore even contribute to the economy in terms of taxation, in terms of savings. Otherwise, thank you, Madam Speaker. I allowed the President's national address speech.
Thank you. The Honorable Caroline Nyelechei, member for Elgeyo Marakwet.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Elgeyo Marakwet this opportunity to contribute on the presidential speech. Madam Speaker, first of all, let me laud the President for choosing a very unpopular path to save this country, Madam Speaker. Many people would wish to choose to fool wananchi or to fool the people of Kenya and become very popular. But then the President has chosen to be a very truthful man
It's out of order.
Is Honorable Nyelechei in order to say that the President has chosen unpopular path? What path is unpopular?
You know, this is a house of debate, Honorable Adams Kipsanai. She has just started. So give her an opportunity to debate. You may
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Kindly forgive my colleague because he feels that he should have exhausted his minutes of debate. Madam Speaker, the unpopular path I was explaining is many people would like to be told lies, or many people would want to be sugar-coated. Mr. President has chosen not to subsidize consumption, but rather production. To some people at the beginning is so unpopular. In the end of it all, Madam Speaker, the fruits will be enjoyed, and it will be a very truthful way of dealing with Kenyans, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the beginning, people wanted him to subsidize the price of unga, but he chose to do the subsidy of production by ensuring that farmers are empowered to produce more food. Madam Speaker, what I'm happy is this year we are going to realize that we can even manage our own population by providing food to the population, because since the fertilizer was subsidized, Madam Speaker, there is a bumper harvest in the country, Madam Speaker. I want to echo the President, or I want to appreciate his subsidizing the fertilizer to farmers, and also by ensuring that other farmers like the fish farmers, Madam Speaker, have been also given an opportunity to do their farming well, Madam Speaker. In this speech, Madam Speaker, he told us of how he is planning, or how the Ministry of Fisheries is setting up 22 new fish landing sites in 9 counties in the Nyanza and the Coast region. Madam Speaker, this will not only ensure that we can supply ourselves with food, but also will provide the farmers with income, because there are people who used to depend with fishing, but as the fish farming had since gone down because of lack of support from the previous government, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the issue of security, I am one of those people who can attest that the President has really tried in the North Rift. I come from Elgeyo Marakwet, where we've been crying, and every time, Madam Speaker, I've been talking about banditry, but for the past 6 months, we have indeed started realizing that we have a new government in place. We have people in Kerio Valley have started living like other people in Kenya. People can now do their day-to-day operations without so much interference. All this is because of the intervention of the President, Madam Speaker, by ensuring that he went out of his way to even deploy the KDF to help the police in the Kerio Valley. Madam Speaker, I also want to support him in the issue of housing, Madam Speaker. It has not only provided employment to our youth in this country, Madam Speaker, but also we realize that mama mbogas and those people who have really been doing their business in unfavorable environment have got 400 markets across the country, and now the mama mboga, who is the bottom-up economy, has a very decent place where they can transact and conduct their businesses, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, also on the issue of Hustler Fund, it has not only provided for...
Thank you, Member for Elgeyo Marakwet. The Honorable Kitilai Olentutu, Member for Narok South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of Narok South, I rise to comment on the maiden State of the Nation address delivered recently by His Excellency the President at Parliament building, pertaining the government intervention to fix the current high cost of living and address other economic issues currently affecting the Kenyan people. Madam Speaker, as a country, we must live within our means and address our own economic issue without false comfort. And I agree with the President on the new direction that might not be easy, but eventually it will work quite responsible and very necessary. Madam Speaker, the enactment of the 4 new laws, such as the Primary Health Care Act, the new Social Health Insurance Act, the Digital Health Act, and the Facility Improvement Financing Act will anchor and guide the implementation of the bottom-up approach championed by the Kenya Kwanza government as a crucial step to achieve the universal health care for all. Madam Speaker, to eradicate poverty and also address the challenges currently facing the ordinary Kenyan people, the Kenya government led by our able President, Honorable William Ruto, has created new jobs for the youth. For instance, the recent employment of 56,750 new teachers and retraining of 8,200 primary school teachers to equip them with the capacity to effectively deliver learning and teaching in junior secondary school level in the country, has tremendously helped to address unemployment rate in every constituency, including Narok South that I represent in this House. This has made significant stride to ensure every part of this country is empowered economically. Madam Speaker, the housing plan initiated by this government has received support from the county government in Kenya, as pointed out by the President, and it is in the right direction. The housing program will stimulate and improve the economy of Kenya and rapidly create jobs for the many unemployed Kenya and boost business for the hustlers. Madam Speaker, the housing the Kenyans population will get a decent homes. Madam Speaker, finally, the implementation of the housing project will also create market for our manufacturing companies, products like cement, factories, timber, local labor, thus creating jobs for the Kenya youth. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Member for Narok South. The Honorable, I can see the Honorable Zamzam Chimba, you are requesting to speak, but you already spoke on this. So now the next opportunity, honorable members, will go to the Honorable Jackson Kosgei, nominated member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I take this opportunity from the onset to applaud the speech given by His Excellency the President on the state of the nation and paid attention to a number of areas that he addressed in his speech. And I'm so encouraged to see that in his administration, he's paying attention to economic matters on how to mitigate the situation in the country. As you know, Madam Speaker, that economics of any country is so important because you will got to address the creation of wealth, the consumption and transfer of the same, not only for those who are enjoying it at the same time in terms of equity, but also ensure the future generation will benefit from the action taken by preceding regimes. The other area that the President addressed and highlighted was in education. It matters, and especially in preparing our young people as a workforce for the nation. We would like our young people to be competitive in the marketplace. One of the foreign exchange earner in some of the countries is export of labor, so that it brings income not only for their families, but also for the nation. In areas of food, because food security matters, by citing one item in agriculture, by making fertilizer affordable and available to the farmers, I was so encouraged to see how much that we are gaining in the country. And Madam Speaker, areas of health, but I would like to end by the way is enhancing the national unity, making every citizen in this country, notwithstanding political differences that we may have, the President has made an appeal that we as Kenyans and the people of this country unite on things that matter, that drives the nation and brings hope to the future. I wish to end my comment, Madam Speaker, by appealing to the members of the executive who are supporting the President, that the President is a symbol of unity in the country, and therefore anyone articulating the policies of the nation should always appear to walk and guide towards the direction of uniting Kenya and making this country a home for everyone, and avoid reckless comments that they make while addressing serious issues that affects the nation. Whichever way you may look at, every one of us matters in this country. And therefore, when the President is guiding towards having everybody on board, carrying everyone on board, I think all of us who are working with the President must read the mind and the speech and the body language and work towards the unity of our country. With this, I support Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. The Honorable Adams Kipsanai, member for Keyo North.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the speech of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya. Madam Speaker, the President elaborated a number of achievements made by his government, or our government, Kenya Kwanza. Madam Speaker, issues to do with agriculture. When you go to Rift Valley today, you will see bamba harvest, courtesy of subsidized fertilizer. Madam Speaker, that is a huge, huge achievement that will improve and make the lives of Kenyans a bit easy, because when food is easy, the general economy becomes good. Madam Speaker, on appointment of judges, Madam Speaker, on appointment of judges, the President demonstrated that he respects separation of power. On matters of independence of police, we see our national security officers nowadays operating freely with ease because they have their own funds that helps in running the operations. Madam Speaker, the President touched on matters to do with health. Health is a primary function of any government, and the President has ensured through this House that each and every citizen is being covered. And recently the President himself launched by ensuring that all CHPs are equipped with necessary machineries to ensure that they serve Kenyans in wherever they are. Madam Speaker, I will not forget to touch on areas of education. The Kenya Kwanza government, through the President, has done enormously good things to ensure that our children are getting quality education. The resources deployed to support CBC and the junior secondary school, Madam Speaker, is something that is worth to be celebrated. Madam Speaker, the President will be remembered for employing the largest number of teachers who are helping our children back home to ensure that they get education, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the security of our nation is also very important. His government is doing whatever it takes to ensure that everyone is secured wherever he is. And lastly, Madam Speaker, the President will be echoed by directing that all the graduates of National Youth Service will be employed to join disciplinary forces going forward. That is a boost to our young people who have contributed a lot in serving our nation. Lastly, Madam Speaker, is to thank the President for uniting the nation. The nation is peaceful. He inherited a very delicate nation who was struggling with the economy, but the President has ensured that the country is kept together. I want to urge all members of Parliament and each and every citizen to know that we don't have any other country. The only country that we have is Kenya. Let us always, in as much as we are playing our politics, we ensure that we unite the nation so that our country, Kenya, becomes successful. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Well, the Honorable Michael Mushira, member for Oljoro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the State of the Nation address by the President. Madam Speaker, the President was forthright and candid on the status of the nation of this country. The President put up the situation that it is not so rosy, but
There's nothing out of, what is out of order? There's nothing out of order. Please proceed. You have 20 seconds, so please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was saying that the President was very forthright and candid on the status of the nation of this country, but left Kenyans with a lot of hope that he is going to fix this nation. Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Michael Mushira, member for Oljoro. You have a balance of 4 minutes, so you can choose to come next time when this State of the Nation address will be on. Honorable members, and the time now being 1 p.m., this House stands adjourned until today afternoon, November 15th, 2023, at 2:30 p.m.
Dulu wa Isiolo, Seneta Dr. Halware wa Kakamega, Seneta Muma na Seneta Cheptumo. Mtazamaji, kati ya mawaziri wanne ambao walitarajiwa kufika, mmoja pekee, Dr. Alfred Mutua, ndiye alifika. Sasa kulikuwa na kizaazaa kidogo wakati ambapo Seneta Dr. Halware alitaka kujua ni kwa nini waziri wa barabara na usafiri Mheshimiwa Murkomen hakufika. Seneta Cherargei na maseneta wengine walionekana kughadhabishwa sana na kutoonekana kwa waziri Murkomen. Seneta Mungatana hata akasema kwamba alikuwa anamsubiri waziri Murkomen kwa hamu na gamu ili ajieleze kwa kina kuhusu paa linalovuja katika uwanja wa ndege wa kimataifa wa Jomo Kenyatta. Hata hivyo, spika wa muda wakili Sigei alitoa